James Patrick Kelly, Mr. Boy. I was already twitching by the time they strapped me down. Nasty pleasure and beautiful pain crackled through me, branching and rebranching like lightning. Extreme feelings are hard to tell apart when you have endorphins spilling across your brain. Another spasm shot down my legs and curled my toes. I moaned. The stiffs wore surgical masks that hid their mouths, but I knew that they were smiling. They hated me because my mom could afford to have me stunted. When I really was just a kid, I did not understand that. Now I hated them back. It helped me get through the therapy. We had a very clean transaction going here. No secrets between us. Even though it hurts, getting stunted is still the ultimate flash. As I unlived my life, I overdosed on dying feelings and experiences. My body was not big enough to hold them all. I thought I was going to explode. I must have screamed because I could see the laugh lines crinkling around the stiff's eyes. You do not have to worry about laugh lines after they twank your genes and reset your mitotic limits. My face was smooth, and I was going to be 12 years old forever, or at least as long as Mom kept paying for my rejuvenation. I giggled as the short one leaned over me and pricked her catheter into my neck. Even through the mask I could smell her breath. She reeked of dead meat. Getting stunted always left me wobbly and thick, but this time I felt like last Tuesday's pizza. One of the stiffs had to roll me out of recovery in a wheelchair. The lobby looked like a furniture showroom. Even the plants had been newly waxed. There was nothing to remind the clients that they were bags of blood and piss. "You are all biological machines now," said the lobby, clean as space station lettuce. A scattering of people sat on the hard chairs. Stenny and Comrade were fidgeting by the elevators. They looked as if they were thinking of rearranging the furniture, like maybe into a pile in the middle of the room. Even before they waved, the stiff seemed to know that they were waiting for me. Comrade smiled. "Zdrastya." "You okay, Mr. Boy?" said Stenny. Stenny was a grapefruit-yellow Stenonychosaurus with a brown underbelly. His razor-clawed toes clicked against the slate floor as he walked. "He's still a little weak," said the stiff as he set the chair's parking brake. He strained to act nonchalant, not realizing that Stenny enjoys being stared at. "He needs rest. Are you his brother?" he said to Comrade. Comrade appeared to be a teen-aged spike neck with a head of silky black hair that hung to his waist. He wore a window coat on which 23 different talking heads chattered. He could pass for human, even though he was really a Panasonic. "Nyet," said Comrade. "I'm just another one of his hallucinations." The poor stiff gave him a dry, nervous cough that might have been meant as a chuckle. He was probably wondering whether Stenny wanted to take me home or eat me for lunch. I always thought that the way Stenny got reshaped was more funny-looking than fierce, a python that had rear-ended an ostrich. But even though he was a head shorter than me, he did have enormous eyes and a mouthful of serrated teeth. He stopped next to the wheelchair and rose up to his full height. "I appreciate everything you've done." Stenny offered the stiff his spindly three-fingered hand to shake. "Sorry if he caused any trouble." The stiff took it gingerly, then shrieked and flew backwards. He jumped almost a meter off the floor. Everyone in the lobby turned, and Stenny opened his hand and waved the joy buzzer. He slapped his tail against the slate in triumph. Stenny's sense of humor was extreme. But then he was only 13 years old. Stenny's parents had given him the Nissan Alpha for his 12th birthday, and we had been customizing it ever since. We installed blue mirror glass, and Stenny painted scenes from the late Cretaceous on the exterior body armor. We ripped out all the seats, put in a wall-to-wall gel mat and a fridge and a microwave and a screen and a mini-dish. Comrade had even done an illegal operation on the car brain so that we could override in an emergency and actually steer the Alpha ourselves with a joystick. It would have been cramped, but we would have lived in Stenny's car if our parents had let us. "You okay there, Mr. Boy?" said Stenny. As I watched the trees whoosh past in the rain, I pretended that the car was standing still and the world was passing me by. "Think of something to do, okay?" Stenny had the car and all, and he was fun to play with, but ideas were not his specialty. He was probably smart for a dinosaur. "I'm bored." "Leave him alone, will you?" Conrad said. He hasn't said anything yet. Stenny stretched and nudged me with his foot. Say something. He had legs like a horse, yellow skin stretched tight over long bones and stringy muscle. Prosreus! He just had his jeans twanked, you jack. Conrad always took good care of me, or tried to. Remember what that's like? He's in damage control. Maybe I should go to socialization, Stenny said. Aren't they having a dance this afternoon? You're talking to me, said the Alpha. You haven't earned enough learning credits to socialize. You're a quiz behind and 45 minutes short of E-class. You haven't linked since... Just shut up and drive me over. Stenny and the Alpha did not get along. He thought the car was too strict. I'll make up the plugging quiz, okay? He probed a mess of empty juice boxes and snack wrappers with his foot. Anyone see my comm anywhere? Stenny's school comm was wedged behind my cushion. You know, I said, I can't take much more of this. I leaned forward, wriggled it free, and handed it over. Of what, poput-cheek? Said Comrade. Joyriding? Listening to the lizard here? Being stunted. Stenny flipped up the screen of his comm and went online with the school's computer. You guys help me, okay? He retracted his claws and tapped at the oversized keyboard. It's extreme while you're on the table, I said, but now I feel empty, like I've lost myself. You'll get over it, said Stenny. First question, brand name of the first wise guy sold for home use? NEC bots, of course, said Comrade. Geneva? It got nuked, right? Duh. Haile Selassie was that king of Egypt who the Marleys claim as God, right? Name the Cold Wars. Nicaragua, Angola. Korea was the first. Typing was hard work for Stenny. He did not have enough fingers for it. One was something like Venezuela, or something. Sure it wasn't Venice? Or Venus? I said, but Stenny was not paying attention. All right, I know that one. And that. The Sovs built the first space station. Ronald Reagan, he was the president who dropped the bomb? Conrad reached inside of his coat and pulled out an envelope. I got you something, Mr. Boy. A get-well present for your collection. I opened it and scoped a picture of a naked, dead fat man on a stainless steel table. The print had a DI verification grid on it, which meant this was the real thing, not a composite. Just above the corpse's left eye there was a neat hole. It was rimmed with purple, which had faded to bruise blue. He had curly gray hair on his head and chest, skin the color of dried mayonnaise, and a wonderfully complicated penis graft. He looked relieved to be dead. Who was he? I liked Conrad's present. It was extreme. CEO of Infoline. He had the wife, you know, the one who stole all the money so she could download herself into a computer. I shivered as I stared at the dead man. I could hear myself breathing and feel the blood squirting through my arteries. Didn't they turn her off? I said. This was the kind of stuff we were not even supposed to imagine, much less look at. Too bad they had cleaned him up. How much did this cost me? You don't want to know. Hey! Stenny thumped his tail against the side of the car. I'm taking a quiz here, and you guys are drooling over porn. When was the first World Depression? Who cares? I slipped the picture back into the envelope and grinned at Comrade. Well, let me see, then. Stenny snatched the envelope. You know what I think, Mr. Boy? I think this corpse jag you're on is kind of sick. Besides, you're going to get in trouble if you let Conrad keep breaking laws. Isn't this picture private? Privacy is 20th century thinking. It's all information, Stenny, and information should be accessible. I held out my hand. But if glasnost bothers you, give it up. I wiggled my fingers. Conrad snickered. Stenny pulled out the picture, glanced at it, and hissed, You're scaring me, Mr. Boy. His school comm beeped as it posted his score on the quiz, and he sailed the envelope back across the car at me. Not Venezuela, Vietnam. Hey, Truman dropped the plugging bomb. Reagan was the one who spent all the money. What's wrong with you dumbscuts? Now I owe school another 15 minutes. Hey, if you don't make it look good, they'll know you had help, Conrad laughed. What's with this dance, anyway? You don't dance. I picked Conrad's present up and tucked it into my shirt pocket. You find yourself a cush or something, lizard boy? Maybe. Stenny could not blush, but sometimes when he was embarrassed, the loose skin under his jaw quivered. Even though he had been reshaped into a dinosaur, he was still growing up. "Maybe I am getting a little. What's it to you?" "If you're getting it," I said, "it's got to be microscopic." This was a bad sign. I was losing him to his dick, just like all the other pals. No way I wanted to start over with someone new. I had been alive for 25 years now. I was running out of things to say to 13-year-olds. As the Alpha pulled up to the school, I scoped the crowd waiting for the doors to open for third shift. Although there were a handful of stunted kids, a pair of gorilla brothers who were football stars, and Freddy the Teddy, a bear who had furry hands instead of real paws, the majority of students at New Canaan High looked more or less normal. Most working stiffs thought that people who had their jeans twanked were freaks. "Come get me at 5:15, Stenny told the Alpha. "In the meantime, take these guys wherever they want to go." He opened the door. "You rest up, Mr. Boy, okay?" "What?" I was not paying attention. "Sure." I had just seen the most beautiful girl in the world. She leaned against one of the concrete columns of the portico, chatting with a couple other kids. Her hair was long and nut-colored, and the ends twinkled. She was wearing a loose black robe over mirror skin tights. Her school com dangled from a strap around her wrist. She appeared to be 17, maybe 18, but, of course, appearances could be deceiving. Girls had never interested me much, but I could not help but admire this one. "Wait, Stenny, who's that?" She saw me, pointed her. "With the hair." "She's new. Has one of those names you can't pronounce." He showed me his teeth as he got out. "Hey, Mr. Boy, you're stunted. You haven't got what she wants." He kicked the door shut, lowered his head, and crossed in front of the car. When he walked, he looked like he was trying to squash a bug with each step. His snaky tail curled high behind him for balance, his twiggy little arms dangled. When the new girl saw him, she pointed and smiled. Or maybe she was pointing at me. "Where to?" said the car. "I don't know." I sank low into my seat and pulled out Conrad's present again. "Home, I guess." I was not the only one in my family with twanked genes. My mom was a 3/4 scale replica of the Statue of Liberty. Originally she wanted to be full-sized, but then she would have been the tallest thing in New Canaan, Connecticut. The town turned her down when she applied for a zoning variance. Her lawyers and their lawyers sued and countersued for almost 2 years. Mom's claim was that since she was born human, her freedom of form was protected by the 30th Amendment. However, the form she wanted was a curtain of reshaped cells which would hang on a 42-meter-high ferroplastic skeleton. Her structure, said the planning board, was clearly subject to building codes and zoning laws. Eventually they reached an out-of-court settlement, which was why Mom was only as tall as an 11-story building. She complied with the town's request for a setback of 500 meters from Route 123. As Stenny's Alpha drove us down the long driveway, Comrade broadcast the recognition code which told the robot sentries that we were okay. One thing Mom and the town agreed on from the start: no tourists. Sure, she loved publicity, but she was also very fragile. In some places her skin was only a centimeter thick. Chunks of ice falling from her crown could punch holes in her. The end of our driveway cut straight across the lawn to Mom's granite-paved foundation pad. To the west of the plaza, directly behind her, was a utility building faced in ashlar that housed her support systems. Mom had been bioengineered to be pretty much self-sufficient. She was green not only to match the real Statue of Liberty, but also because she was photosynthetic. All she needed was a yearly truckload of fertilizer, water from the well, and 150 kilowatts of electricity a day. Except for emergency surgery, the only time she required maintenance was in the fall, when her outer cells tended to flake off and had to be swept up and carted away. Stenny's Alpha dropped us off by the door bone in the right heel, and then drove off to do whatever cars do when nobody is using them. Mom's greeter was waiting in the reception area inside the foot. "Peter." She tried to hug me, but I dodged out of her grasp. "How are you, Peter?" "Tired." Even though Mom knew I did not like to be called that, I kissed the air near her cheek. Peter Cage was her name for me. I had given it up years ago. "You poor boy. Here, let me see you." She held me at arm's length and brushed her fingers against my cheek. You don't look a day over 12. Oh, they do such good work, don't you think?" She squeezed my shoulder. "Are you happy with it?" I think my mom meant well, but she never did understand me, especially when she talked to me with her greeter remote. I wormed out of her grip and fell back onto one of the couches. "What's to eat?" "Doughboys, noodles, fries, whatever you want." She beamed at me and then bent over impulsively and gave me a kiss that I did not want. I never paid much attention to the greeter. She was lighter than air. She was always smiling and asking 5 questions in a row without waiting for an answer and flitting around the room. It wore me out just watching her. Naturally, everything I said or did was cute, even if I was trying to be obnoxious. It was no fun being cute. Today Mom had her greeter wearing a dark blue dress and a very dumb white apron. The greeter's umbilical was too short to stretch up to the kitchen, so why was she wearing an apron? "I'm really, really glad you're home," she said. "I'll take some cinnamon doughboys." I kicked off my shoes and rubbed my bare feet through the dense black hair on the floor. "And a beer." All of Mom's remotes had different personalities. I liked Nanny all right. She was simple, but at least she listened. The lovers were a challenge because they were usually too busy looking into mirrors to notice me. Cook was as pretentious as a 4-star menu. The housekeeper had all the charm of a vacuum cleaner. I had always wondered what it would be like to talk directly to Mom's main brain up in the head, because then she would not be filtered through a remote. She would be herself. "Cook is making you some nice broth to go with your doughboys," said the greeter. "Nanny says you shouldn't be eating dessert all the time." "Hey, did I ask for broth?" At first Comrade had hung back while the greeter was fussing over me. Then he slid along the wrinkled pink walls of the reception room toward the plug where the greeter's umbilical was attached. When she started in about the broth, I saw him lean against the plug, carelessly, you know. At the same time, he stepped on the greeter's umbilical, crimping the furry black cord. She gasped, and the smile flattened horribly on her face, as if her lips were 2 ropes someone had suddenly yanked taut. Her head jerked toward the umbilical plug. "Excuse me." She was twitching. "What?" Comrade glanced down at his foot as if it belonged to a stranger. "Oh, sorry." He pushed away from the wall and strolled across the room toward us. Although he seemed apologetic, about half the heads on his window coat were laughing. The greeter flexed her cheek muscles. "You'd better watch out for your toy, Peter," she said. "It's going to get you in trouble some day." Mom did not like Comrade much, even though she had given him to me when I was first stunted. She got mad when I snuck him down to Manhattan a couple of years ago to have a chop job done on his behavioral regulators. For a while after the operation, he used to ask me before he broke the law. Now he was on his own. He got caught once, and she warned me he was out of control, but she still threw money at the people until they went away. "Trouble?" I said. "Sounds like fun." I thought we were too rich for trouble. I was the trust baby of a trust baby. We had vintage money and lots of it. I stood, and Conrad picked up my shoes for me. "And he's not a toy, he's my best friend." I put my arms around his shoulder. "Tell Cook I'll eat in my rooms." I was tired after the long climb up the circular stairs to Mom's chest. When the room brain sensed I had come in, it turned on all the electronic windows and blinked my message indicator. One reason I still lived in my mom was that she kept out of my rooms. She had promised me total security, and I believed her. Actually, I doubted that she cared enough to pry, although she could easily have tapped my windows. I was safe from her remotes up here, even the housekeeper. Comrade did everything for me. I sent him for supper, perched on the edge of the bed, and cleared the nearest window of army ants foraging for meat through some Angolan jungle. The first message in the queue was from a gray-haired stiff wearing a navy blue corporate uniform. "Hello, Mr. Cage. My name is Weldon Montrose, and I'm with DataSafe. I'd like to arrange a meeting with you at your convenience. Call my DI number, 408-966-3286. I hope to hear from you soon." "What the hell is DataSafe?" The room brain ran a search. DataSafe offers services in encryption and information security. It was incorporated in the state of Delaware in 2013. Estimated billings last year were $340 million. Headquarters are in San Jose, California, with branch offices in White Plains, New York, and Chevy Chase, Maryland. Foreign offices. Are they trying to sell me something or what? The room did not offer an answer. "Delete," I said. "Next." Weldon Montrose was back again, looking exactly as he had before. I wondered if he were using a virtual image. "Hello, Mr. Cage. I've just discovered that you've been admitted to the Thayer Clinic for rejuvenation therapy. Believe me when I say that I very much regret having to bother you during your convalescence, and I would not do so if this were not a matter of importance. Would you please contact Department of Identification number 408-966-3286 as soon as you're able?" You're a pro, Weldon, I'll say that for you. Prying client information out of the Thayer Clinic was not easy, but then the guy was no doubt some kind of op. He was way too polite to be a salesman. What did Data Safe want with me? "Any more messages from him?" "No," said the room brain. "Well, delete this one, too, and if he calls back, tell him I'm too busy unless he wants to tell me what he's after." I stretched out on my bed. Next, the gel mattress shivered as it took my weight. Happy Lurdane was having a smash party on the 20th, but Happy was a boring cush, and there was a bill from the pet store for the iguanas that I paid, and a warning from the SPCA that I deleted, and a special offer for preferred customers from my favorite fireworks company that I saved to look at later. And my dad was about to ask for another loan when I paused him and deleted, and last of all, there was a message from Stenny, time-stamped 10 minutes ago. "Hey, Mr. Boy, if you're feeling better, I've lined up a VR party for tonight." He did not quite fit into the school's telelink booth. All I could see was his toothy face and the long yellow curve of his neck. "Bunch of us have reserved some time on Playroom. Come in disguise. That new kid said she'd link, so scope her yourself if you're so hot. I found out her name, but it's kind of unpronounceable. Tree-something Joplin. Anyway, it's at 7. Meet on Channel 17. Password is Warhead. Hey, did you send my car back yet? Later." He faded. Sounds like fun. Conrad kicked the door bone open and backed through, balancing a tray loaded with soup and fresh doughboys and a mug of cold beer. "Are we going?" He set it on to the nightstand next to my bed. "Maybe," I yawned. It felt good to be in my own bed. "Flush the damn soup, would you?" I reached over for a doughboy and felt something crinkle in my jacket pocket. I pulled out the picture of the dead CEO. About the only thing I did not like about it was that the eyes were shut. You feel dirtier when the corpse stares back. "This is one sweet hunk of meat, comrade." I propped the picture beside the tray. "How did you get it, anyway? Must have taken some operating." 3 days' worth. Encryption wasn't all that tough, but there was lots of it. Conrad admired the picture with me as he picked up the bowl of soup. "I ended up buying about 10 hours from IBM to crack the file. Kind of pricey, but since you were getting stunted, I had nothing else to do." "You see the messages from that security op?" I bit into a doughboy. "Maybe you were a little sloppy." The hot cinnamon scent tickled my nose. "You thought they got a ball," he laughed. "So some stiff is cranky. Plug him if he can't take a joke." I said nothing. Conrad could be a pain sometimes. Of course I loved the picture, but he really should have been more careful. He had made a mess and left it for me to clean up. Just what I needed. I knew I would only get mad if I thought about it, so I changed the subject. "Well, do you think she's cute?" "What's her face, Joplin?" Conrad turned abruptly toward the bathroom. "Sure, for a Badunya," he said over his shoulder. "Why not?" Talking about girls made him snippy. I think he was afraid of them. I brought my army ants back onto the window. They were swarming over a lump with brown fur. Thinking about him hanging on my elbow when I met this tree-something Joplin made me feel weird. I listened as he poured the soup down the toilet. I was not myself at all. Getting stunted changes you. No one can predict how. I chugged the beer and rolled over to take a nap. It was the first time I had ever thought of leaving Conrad behind. "VR party, Mr. Boy." Conrad nudged me awake. "Are we going or not?" "Huh?" My gut still ached from the rejuvenation, and I woke up mean enough to chew glass. "What do you mean, we?" "Nothing." Conrad had that blank look he always put on, so I would not know what he was thinking. Still I could tell he was disappointed. "Are you going, then?" he said. I stretched. Ouch! "Yeah, sure. Get my joy suit." My bones felt brittle as candy. "And stop acting sorry for yourself." This nasty mood had momentum. It swept me past any regrets. "No way I'm going to lie here all night watching you pretend you have feelings to hurt." "Tak točno." He saluted and went straight to the closet. I got out of bed and hobbled to the bathroom. "This is a costume party, remember?" Comrade called. "What are you wearing?" "Whatever." Even his efficiency irked me. Sometimes he did too much. "You decide." I needed to get away from him for a while. Playroom was a new virtual reality service on our local net. If you wanted to throw an electronic party at Versailles or Monticello or San Simeon, all you had to do was link, if you could get a reservation. I came back to the bedroom, and Conrad stepped up behind me holding the joysuit. I shrugged into it, velcroed the front seam, and eyed myself in the nearest window. He had synthesized some kid-sized armor in the German Gothic style, my favorite. It was made of polished silver, with great fluting and scalloping. He had even programmed a little glow into the image, so that on the window I looked like a walking nightlight. There was an armet helmet with a red ostrich plume. The visor was tipped up so I could see my face. I raised my arm, and the joysuit translated the movement to the window so that my armored image waved back. "Try a few steps," he said. Although I could move easily in the lightweight joysuit, the motion interpreter made walking in the video armor seem realistically awkward. Conrad had scored the sound effects, too. Metal hinges rasped, chainmail rattled softly, and there was a satisfying clunk whenever my foot hit the floor. "Great!" I clenched my fist in approval. I was awake now and in control of my temper. I wanted to make up, but Conrad was not taking the hint. I could never quite figure out whether he was just acting like a machine or whether he really did not care how I treated him. "They're starting." All the windows in the room lit up with Playroom's welcome screen. "You want privacy, so I'm leaving. No one will bother you." "Hey, Comrade, you don't have to go." But he had already left the room. Playroom prompted me to identify myself. "Mr. Boy," I said, "Department of Identification Number 203-966-2445. I'm looking for Channel 17. The password is Warhead." A brass band started playing Hail to the Chief as the title screen lit the windows. "The White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C., USA. Copyright 2096. Playroom Presentations. Reproduction or reuse strictly prohibited." And then I was looking at a wrap-around view of a VR ballroom. A caption bar opened at the top of the windows, and a message scrolled across. "This is the famous East Room, the largest room in the main house. It is used for press conferences, public receptions, and entertainments." I lowered my visor and entered the simulation. The East Room was decorated in bone white and gold. 3 chandeliers hung like cut glass mushrooms above the huge parquet floor. A band played skitter at one end of the room, but no one was dancing yet. The band was Warhead, according to their drum set. I had never heard of them. Someone's disguise? I turned, and the joysuit changed the view on the windows. Just ahead, Satan was chatting with a forklift and a rhinoceros. Beyond some blue cartoons were teasing Johnny America. There was not much furniture in the room, a couple of benches, an ugly piano, and some life-sized paintings of George and Martha. George looked like he had just been peeled off a cash card. I stared at him too long, and the closed caption bar informed me that the painting had been painted by Gilbert Stuart, and was the only White House object dating from the mansion's first occupancy in 1800. "Hey," I said to a girl who was on fire, "how do I get rid of the plugging tour guide?" "Can't," she said. "When Playroom found out we were kids, they turned on all their educational crap, and there's no override. I kind of don't think they want us back." "Dumb scuts." I scoped the room for something that might be Stenny. No luck. "I like the way your hair is burning." Now that it was too late, I was sorry I had to make idle party chat. "Thanks." When she tossed her head, sparks flared and crackled. "My mom helped me program it." "So, I've never been to the White House. Is there more than this?" "Sure," she said. "We're supposed to have pretty much the whole first floor, unless they shorted us. You wouldn't be Stone Kincaid in there, would you?" "No, not really." Even though the voice was disguised, I could tell this was Happy Lurdane. I edged away from her. "I'm going to check the other rooms now. Later." "If you run into Stone, tell him I'm looking for him." I left the East Room and found myself in a long marble passageway with a red carpet. A dog skeleton trotted toward me. Or maybe it was supposed to be a sheep. I waved and went through a door on the other side. Everyone in the Red Room was standing on the ceiling. I knew I had found Stenny. Even though what they see is only a simulation, most people lock into the perceptual field of a VR as if it were real. Stand on your head long enough, even if only in your imagination, and you get airsick. It took kilo-hours of practice to learn to compensate. Upside down was one of Stenny's trademark ways of showing off. The Red Room is an intimate parlor in the American Empire style of 1815 to 20. "Hi," I said. I hopped over the wainscoting and walked up the silk-covered wall to join the three of them. "You're wearing German armor." When the boy in blue grinned at me, his cheeks dimpled. He was wearing shorts and white knee socks, a navy sweater over a white shirt. "Augsburg," said Little Boy Blue. Fine blond hair drooped from beneath his tweed cap. "Try Wolf of Landshut," I said. Stenny and I had spent a lot of time fighting VR wars in full armor. "Nice shorts." Stenny's costume reminded me of Christopher Robin. Terminally cute. "It's not fair," said the snowman, who I did not recognize. "He says this is what he actually looks like." The snowman was standing in a puddle which was dripping onto the rug below us. Great effect. "No," said Stenny. "What I said was I would look like this if I hadn't done something about it, okay?" I had not known Stenny before he was a dinosaur. No wonder you got twanked. I wished I could have saved this image, but Playroom was copy-protected. "You've been twanked?" "No joke." The great horned owl ruffled in alarm. She had a girl's voice. "I know it's none of my business, but I don't understand why anyone would do it, especially a kid. I mean, what's wrong with good old-fashioned surgery? And you can be whoever you want in a VR. She paused, waiting for someone to agree with her. No help. "Okay, so I don't understand. But when you mess with your genes, you change who you are. I mean, don't you like who you are? I do." "We're so happy for you," Stenny scowled. "What is this, Mental Health Week?" "We're rich," I said. "We can afford to hate ourselves." "This may sound rude." The owl's big, blunt head swiveled from Stenny to me. "But I think that's sad." "Yeah, well, we'll try to work up some tears for you, Bertie," Stenny said. Silence. In the East Room, the band turned the volume up. "Anyway, I've got to be going." The owl shook herself. "Hanging upside down is fine for bats, but not for me. Later." She let go of her perch and swooped out into the hall. The snowman turned to watch her go. "You're driving them off, young man." I patted Stenny on the head. "Come on now, be nice." "Nice makes me puke." "You do have a bit of an edge tonight." I had trouble imagining this dainty little brat as my best friend. "Better watch out you don't cut someone." The dog skeleton came to the doorway and called up to us. "We're supposed to dance now." "About time." Stenny fell off the ceiling like a drop of water and splashed headfirst onto the beige Persian rug. His image went all muddy for a moment, and then he reformed, upright and unharmed. "Going to skitter, Tin Man?" "I need to talk to you for a moment," the snowman murmured. "You need to?" I said. "Dance, dance, dance," sang Stenny. "Later." He swerved after the skeleton out of the room. The snowman said, "It's about a possible theft of information." Right then was when I should have slammed it into reverse, caught up with Stenny, or maybe faded from Playroom altogether. But all I did was raise my hands over my head. "You got me, snowman, I confess. But society is to blame too, isn't it? You will tell the judge to go easy on me. I've had a tough life." "This is serious." "You're Weldon, what's your name?" Down the hall I could hear the thud of Warhead's bass line. "Montross." "I'll come to the point, Peter." The only acknowledgment he made was to drop the kid voice. "The firm I represent provides information security services. Last week, someone operated on the protected database of one of our clients. We have reason to believe that a certified photograph was accessed and copied. What can you tell me about this?" "Not bad, Mr. Montross, sir. But if you were as good as you think you are, you'd know my name isn't Peter. It's Mr. Boy. And since nobody invited you to this party, maybe you'd better tell me now why I shouldn't just go ahead and have you deleted. I know that you were undergoing genetic therapy at the time of the theft, so you could not have been directly responsible. That's in your favor. However, I also know that you can help me clear this matter up, and you need to do that, son, just as quickly as you can. Otherwise, there's big trouble coming. What are you going to do, tell my mommy? My blood started to pump. I was coming back to life. This is my offer. It's not negotiable. You let me sweep your files for this image. You turn over any hard copies you've made, and you instruct your wise guy to let me do a spot reprogramming, during which I will erase his memory of this incident. After that, we'll consider the matter closed. Why don't I just drop my pants and bend over while I'm at it? Look, you can pretend if you want, but you're not a kid anymore. You're 25 years old. I don't believe for a minute that you're as thick as your friends out there. If you think about it, you'll realize that you can't fight us. The fact that I'm here, and I know what I know, means that all your personal information systems are already tapped. I'm an op, son. I could wipe your files clean any time, and I will if it comes to that. However, my orders are to be thorough. The only way I can be sure I have everything is if you cooperate. You're not even real, are you, Montrose? I'll bet you're nothing but cheesy old code. I've talked to elevators with more personality. The offer is on the table. Stick it! The owl flew back into the room, braked with outstretched wings, and caught on to the armrest of the Dolly Madison sofa. "Oh, you're still here," she said, noticing us. "I didn't mean to interrupt." "Wait there," I said. "I'm coming right down." "I'll be in touch," said the snowman. "Let me know just as soon as you change your mind." He faded. I flipped backward off the ceiling and landed in front of her. My video armor rang from the impact. "Owl, you just saved the evening." I knew I was showing off, but just then I was willing to forgive myself. "Thanks." "You're welcome, I guess." She edged away from me, moving with precise little bird-like steps toward the top of the couch. "But all I was trying to do was escape the band. Bad and loud." Her ear tufts flattened. "Do you think shutting the door would help?" "Sure. Follow me. We can shut lots of doors." When she hesitated, I flapped my arms like silver wings. Actually, Montrose had done me a favor. When he threatened me, some inner clock had begun an adrenaline tick. If this was trouble, I wanted more. I felt twisted and dangerous, and I did not care what happened next. Maybe that was why the owl flitted after me as I walked into the next room. The sumptuous state dining room can seat about 130 for formal dinners. The white and gold decor dates from the administration of Theodore Roosevelt. The owl glided over to the banquet table. I shut the door behind me. "Better?" Warhead still pounded on the walls. "A little." She settled on a huge bronze doré centerpiece with a mirrored surface. "I'm going soon anyway." "Why?" "The band stinks. I don't know anyone, and I hate these stupid disguises." "I'm Mr. Boy." I raised my visor and grinned at her. "All right. Now you know someone." She tucked her wings into place and fixed me with her owlish stare. "I don't like VRs much." "They take some getting used to." "Why bother?" she said. "I mean, if anything can happen in a simulation, nothing matters. And I feel dumb standing in a room all alone, jumping up and down and flapping my arms. Besides, this joy suit is hot, and I'm renting it by the hour." "The trick is not to look at yourself," I said. "Just watch the screens and use your imagination." "Reality is less work. You look like a little kid." "Is that a problem?" "Mr. Boy? What kind of name is that, anyway?" I wished she would blink. "A made-up name. But then all names are made up, aren't they?" "Didn't I see you at school Wednesday? You were the one who dropped off the dinosaur." "My friend, Stenny." I pulled out a chair and sat facing her. "Who you probably hate because he's twanked." "That was him on the ceiling, wasn't it?" "Listen, I'm sorry about what I said. I'm new here. I'd never met anyone like him before I came to New Canaan. I mean, I'd heard of reshaping and all, getting twanked. But where I used to live, everybody was pretty much the same." "Where was that? Squirrel Crossing, Nebraska?" "Close," she laughed. "Elkhart. It's in Indiana." The reckless ticking in my head slowed. Talking to her made it easy to forget about Montrose. "You want to leave the party?" I said. "We could go into discreet." "Just us?" She sounded doubtful. "Right now?" "Why not? You said you weren't staying. We could get rid of these disguises and the music." She was silent for a moment. Maybe people in Elkhart, Indiana, did not ask one another into discreet unless they had met in Sunday school or the 4-H club. "Okay," she said finally. "But I'll enable. What's your DI?" I gave her my number. "Be back in a minute." I cleared Playroom from my screens. The message, "Enabling Discrete Mode," flashed. I decided not to change out of the joysuit. Instead, I called up my wardrobe menu and chose an image of myself wearing black baggies. The loose folds and padded shoulders helped hide the scrawny little boy's body. The message changed. "Discrete mode enabled. Do you accept? Yes, no." "Sure," I said. She was sitting naked in the middle of a room filled with tropical plants. Her skin was the color of cinnamon. She had freckles on her shoulders and across her breasts. Her hair tumbled down the curve of her spine. The ends glowed like embers in a breeze. She clutched her legs close to her and gave me a curious smile. Teenage still life. We were alone and secure. No one could tap us while we were indiscreet. We could say anything we wanted. I was too croggled to speak. "You are a little kid," she said. I did not tell her that what she was watching was an enhanced image of virtual me. Well, not really. I was glad Stenny could not see me. Mr. Boy, at a loss. A first. Sometimes I'm not sure what I am. I guess you're not going to like me either. I've been stunted a couple of times. I'm really 25 years old. She frowned. "You keep deciding I won't like people. Why?" "Most people are against genetic surgery, probably because they haven't got the money." "Myself, I wouldn't do it. Still, just because you did doesn't mean I hate you." She gestured for me to sit. "But my parents would probably be horrified. They're realists, you know." "No fooling." I could not help but chuckle. That explains a lot. Like why she had an attitude about twanking, and why she thought VRs were dumb, and why she was naked and did not seem to care. According to hardcore realists, first came clothes, then jewelry, fashion, makeup, plastic surgery, skin tints, and hey, Jack, here we are up to our eyeballs in the delusions of 2096. Gene twanking, VR addicts, people downloading themselves into computers. Better never to have started. They wanted to turn back to worn-out 20th century modes. "But you're no realist," I said. "Look at your hair." She shook her head and the ends twinkled. "You like it?" "It's extreme. But realists don't decorate." "Then maybe I'm not a realist. My parents let me try lots of stuff they wouldn't do themselves, like buying hairworks or linking to VRs. They're afraid I'd leave otherwise." "Would you?" She shrugged. "So, what's it like to get stunted? I've heard it hurts." I told her how sometimes I felt as if there were broken glass in my joints and how my bones ached and, more showing off, about the blood I would find on the toilet paper. Then I mentioned something about Mom. She had heard of Mom, of course. She asked about my dad, and I explained how Mom paid him to stay away, but that he kept running out of money. She wanted to know if I was working or still going to school, and I made up some stuff about courses in history I was taking from Yale. Actually, I had faded after my first semester, a couple of years ago. I did not have time to link to some boring college. I was too busy playing with Conrad and Stenny. But I still had an account at Yale. "So, that's who I am." I was amazed at how little I had lied. "Who are you?" She told me that her name was Tremonisha, but her friends called her Tree. It was an old family name. Her great-great-grand-something or other had been a composer named Scott Joplin. Tremonisha was the name of his opera. I had to force myself not to stare at her breasts when she talked. "You like opera?" I said. "My dad says I'll grow into it." She made a face. "I hope not." The Joplins were a franchise family. Her mom and dad had just been transferred to the Green Dream, a plant shop in the Elm Street Mall. To hear her talk, you would think she had ordered them from the Good Fairy. They had been married for 22 years and were still together. She had a brother, Fidel, who was 12. They all lived in the greenhouse next to the shop where they grew most of their food and where flowers were always in bloom and where everybody loved everyone else. Nice life for a bunch of mall drones. So why was she thinking of leaving? "You should stop by sometime," she said. "Sometime," I said. "Sure." For hours after we faded, I kept remembering things about her I had not realized I had noticed. the fine hair on her legs, the curve of her eyebrows, the way her hands moved when she was excited. It was Stenny's fault. After the playroom party, he started going to school almost every day, not just linking to E-class with his comm, but actually showing up. We knew he had more than remedial reading on his mind, but no matter how much we teased, he would not talk about his mysterious new cush. Before he fell in love, we used to joyride in his Alpha afternoons. Now Conrad and I had the car all to ourselves. Not as much fun. We had already dropped Stenny off when I spotted Tremonisha waiting for the bus. I waved. She came over. The next thing I knew, we had another passenger on the road to nowhere. Conrad stared vacantly out the window as we pulled onto South Street. He did not seem pleased with the company. "Have you been out to the reservoir?" I said. "There are some extreme houses out there. Or we could drive over to Greenwich and look at yachts." "I haven't been anywhere yet, so I don't care," she said. "By the way, you don't go to college." She was not accusing me or even asking, merely stating a fact. "Why do you say that?" I said. "Fidel told me." I wondered how her 12-year-old brother could know anything at all about me. Rumors, maybe, or just guessing. Since she did not seem mad, I decided to tell the truth. "He's right," I said. "I lied. I have an account at Yale, but I haven't linked for months. Hey, you can't live without telling a few lies. At least I don't discriminate. I'll lie to anyone, even myself." "You're bad." A smile twitched to the corners of her mouth. "So what do you do, then?" "I drive around a lot." I waved at the interior of Stenny's car. "Let's see. I go to parties. I buy stuff and use it." "Fidel says you're rich." "I'm going to have to meet this Fidel. Does money make a difference?" When she nodded, her hair-works twinkled. Conrad gave me a knowing glance, but I paid no attention. I was trying to figure out how she could make insults sound like compliments when I realized we were flirting. The idea took me by surprise. Flirting. "Do you have any music?" Tremonisha said. The Alpha asked what groups she liked, and so we listened to some mindless dance hits as we took the circle route around the Laurel Reservoir. Tremonisha told me about how she was sick of her parents' store and rude customers, and especially the dumb Green Dream uniform. "Back in Elkhart, Daddy used to make me wear it to school. Can you believe that? He said it was good advertising. When we moved, I told him either the khakis went or I did." She had a yellow and orange dashiki over midnight blue skin tights. "I like your clothes," I said. "You have taste." "Thanks." She bobbed her head in time to the music. "I can't afford much because I can't get an outside job because I have to work for my parents. It makes me mad sometimes. I mean, franchise life is fine for Mom and Dad. They're happy being tucked in every night by GD Incorporated. But I want more. Thrills, chills, adventure. No one has adventures in the mall." As we drove, I showed her the log castle, the pyramids, the private train that pulled sleeping cars soundlessly around a 2-mile track, and the marble bunker where Sullivan, the assassinated president, still lived on in computer memory. Conrad kept busy acting bored. "Can we go see your mom?" said Tremonisha. "All the kids at school tell me she's awesome." Suddenly Conrad was interested in the conversation. I was not sure what the kids at school were talking about. Probably they wished they had seen Mom, but I had never asked any of them over, except for Stenny. "Not a good idea." I shook my head. "She's more flimsy than she looks, and she gets real nervous if strangers just drop by, or even friends." "I just want to look. I won't get out of the car." "Well," said Conrad, "if she doesn't get out of the car, who could she hurt?" I scowled at him. He knew how paranoid Mom was. She was not going to like Tremonisha anyway, but certainly not if I brought her home without warning. "Let me work on her, okay?" I said to Tremonisha. "One of these days, I promise." She pouted for about 5 seconds and then laughed at my expression. When I saw Conrad's smirk, I got angry. He was just sitting there watching us, looking to cause trouble. Later there would be wisecracks. I had had about enough of him and his attitude. By that time the Alpha was heading up High Ridge Road toward Stamford. "I'm hungry," I said. "Stop at the 7-Eleven up ahead." I pulled a cash card out and flipped it at him. "Go buy us some doughboys." I waited until he disappeared into the store, and then ordered Stenny's car to drive on. "Hey!" Tremonisha twisted in her seat and looked back at the store. "What are you doing?" "Ditching him." "Why? Won't he be mad?" "He's got my card. He'll call a cab." "But that's mean." "So?" Tremonisha thought about it. "He doesn't say much, does he?" She did not seem to know what to make of me, which I suppose was what I wanted. "At first I thought he was kind of like your teddy bear. Have you seen those big ones that keep little kids out of trouble?" "He's just a wise guy." "Have you had him long?" "Maybe too long." I could not think of anything to say after that, so we sat quietly, listening to the music. Even though he was gone, Conrad was still aggravating me. "Were you really hungry?" Tremonisha said finally. "Because I was. Think there's something in the fridge?" I waited for the Alpha to tell us, but it said nothing. I slid across the seat and opened the refrigerator door. Inside was a sheet of paper. "Dear Mr. Boy," it said, "if this was a bomb, you and Conrad would be dead and the problem would be solved. Let's talk soon. Weldon Montrose." "What's that?" I felt the warm flush that I always got from good corpse porn, and for a moment I could not speak. "Practical joke," I said, crumpling the paper. "Too bad he doesn't have a sense of humor." Push-ups. 10, 11. "Uh-oh, look at this," said Conrad. "I'm busy." 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 7. Dizzy, I slumped and rested my cheek against the warm floor. I could feel Mom's pulse beneath the tough skin. It was no good. I would never get muscles this way. There was only one fix for my skinny arms and bony shoulders. Grow up, Mr. Boy. "Yeah, boo. You really should scope this," said Conrad. "Very spooky." I pulled myself onto the bed to see why he was bothering me. He had been pretty tame since I had stranded him at the 7-Eleven. Most of the windows showed the usual, army ants next to old war movies, next to feeding time from the Bronx Zoo's reptile house. But FireNet, which provided 24-hour coverage of killer fires from around the world, had been replaced with a picture of a morgue. There were 3 naked bodies, shrouds pulled back for identification. A fat, gray-haired CEO with a purple hole over his left eye, Conrad, and me. "You look kind of dead," said Conrad. My tongue felt thick. "Where's it coming from?" "Viruses all over the system," he said. "Probably Montrose." "You know about him?" The image on the window changed back to a Barritas fire in Lima. "He's been in touch," Conrad shrugged. "Made his offer." Crying women watched as the straw walls of their huts peeled into flame and floated away. "Oh." I did not know what to say. I wanted to reassure him, but this was serious. Montrose was invading my life, and I had no idea how to fight back. "Well, don't talk to him any more." "Okay," Conrad grinned. "He's dull as a spoon anyway." "I bet he's a simulation. What else would a company like DataSafe use? You can't trust real people." I was still thinking about what I would look like dead. "Whatever, he's kind of scary." I shivered, worried and aroused at the same time. "He's slick enough to operate on Playroom. And now he's hijacking Windows right here in my own mom." I should probably have told Conrad then about the note in the fridge, but we were still not talking about that today. "He tapped into Playroom?" Conrad fitted input clips to the spikes on his neck, linked and played back the house files. "Zayebes. He was already here, then. He piggybacked on with you." Conrad slapped his leg. "I can't understand how he beat my security so easily." The room brain flicked the message indicator. "Stenny's calling," it said. "Pick up," I said. "Hi, it's that time again." Stenny was alone in his car. "I'm on my way over to give you Jacks a thrill." He pushed his triangular snout up to the camera and licked at the lens. "Doing anything?" "Not really. Sitting around." "I'll fix that. 5 minutes." He faded. Conrad was staring at nothing. "Look, Conrad, you did your best," I said. "I'm not mad at you." "Too plugging easy." He shook his head as if I had missed the point. "What I don't understand is why Montrose is so cranky anyway. It's just a picture of meat." "Maybe he's not really dead." Sure he is, I said. You can't fake a verification grid. No, but you can fake a corpse. You know something? If I did, I wouldn't tell you, said Conrad. You have enough problems already. Like, how do we explain this to your mom? We don't, not yet. Let's wait him out. Sooner or later, he's got to realize that we're not going to use his picture for anything. I mean, if he's that nervous, I'll even give it back. I don't care any more. You hear that, Montross, you dumb scut? We're harmless. Get out of our lives. It's more than the picture now, said Conrad. It's me. I found the way in. He was careful to keep his expression blank. I did not know what to say to him. No way Montross would be satisfied erasing only the memory of the operation. He would probably reconnect Conrad's regulators to bring him back under control. Turn him to pudding. He would be just another wise guy, like anyone else could own. I was surprised that Conrad did not ask me to promise not to hand him over. Maybe he just assumed I would stand by him. We did not hear Stenny coming until he sprang into the room. "Have fun or die!" He was clutching a plastic gun in his spindly hand, which he aimed at my head. "Stenny, no!" He fired as I rolled across the bed. The jelly bee buzzed by me and squished against one of the windows. It was a purple, and immediately I smelled the tang of artificial grape flavor. The splatter on the wrinkled wall pulsed and split in two, emitting a second burst of grapeness. The two halves oozed in opposite directions, shivered, and divided again. "Fun extremist!" He shot Conrad with a cherry as he dove for the closet. "Dance!" I bounced up and down on the bed, timing my move. He fired a green at me that missed. Conrad, meanwhile, gathered himself up as zits of red jelly bees squirmed across his window coat. He barreled out of the closet into Stenny, knocking him sideways. I sprang on top of them and rustled the gun away. Stenny was paralyzed with laughter. I had to giggle, too, in part because now I could put off talking to Conrad about Montross. By the time we untangled ourselves, the jelly bees had faded. "Set for 12 generations before they all die out," Stenny said as he settled himself on the bed. "So what's this my car tells me? You've been giving free rides? Is this the cush with the name?" "None of your business. You never tell me about your cush." "Okay. Her name is Janet Hoyt." "Is it?" He caught me off guard again. Twice in one day, a record. "Comrade, let's see this prize." Comrade linked to the room brain and ran a search. "Got her." He called Janet Hoyt's DI file to screen, and her face ballooned across an entire window. She was a tanned, blue-eyed blonde with the kind of off-the-shelf looks that med students slapped onto rabbits in genoplasty courses. Nothing on her face said she was different from any other ornamental moron fresh from the OR. Not a dimple or a mole, not even a freckle. "You're ditching me for her?" It took all the imagination of a potato chip to be as pretty as Janet Hoyt. "Stenny, she's generic." "Now, wait a minute," said Stenny. "If we're going to play critic, let's scope your cush, too." Without asking, Comrade put Tree's DI photo next to Janet's. I realized he was still mad at me because of her. He was only pretending not to care. "She's not my cush," I said, but no one was listening. Stenny leered at her for a moment. "She's a stiff, isn't she?" he said. "She has that hungry look." Seeing him standing there in front of the two huge faces on the wall, I felt like I was peeping on a stranger. That I was a stranger, too. I could not imagine how the two of us had come to this. Stenny and Mr. Boy with cushes. We were growing up. A frightening thought. Maybe next Stenny would get himself untwanked and really look like he had on Playroom. Then where would I be? "Janet wants me to plug her," Stenny said. "Right, and I'm the Queen of Brooklyn. I'm old enough, you know." He thumped his tail against the floor. "You're a dinosaur. Hey, just because I got twanked doesn't mean my dick fell off. So do it then. I'm going to. I will, okay? But this is no good." Stenny waved impatiently at Conrad. "I can't think with them watching me." He nodded at the windows. "Turn them off already. Nie pizdye." Conrad wiped the two faces from the windows, cleared all the screens in the room to blood red, yanked the input clips from his neck spikes, and left them dangling from the room brain's terminal. His expression empty, he walked from the room without asking permission or saying anything at all. "What's his problem?" Stenny said. Who knows? Conrad had left the door open. I shut it. Maybe he doesn't like girls. Look, I want to ask a favor. I could tell Stenny was nervous. His head kept swaying. This is kind of embarrassing, but... Okay, do you think maybe your mom would maybe let me practice on her lovers? I don't want Janet to know I've never done it before, and there's some stuff I've got to figure out. I don't know, I said. Ask her. But I did know. She would be amused. People claimed my mom did not have a sense of humor. Lovey was huge, an ocean of a woman. Her umbilical was as big around as my thigh. When she walked, waves of flesh heaved and rolled. She had beautiful skin, flawless and moist. It did not take much to make her sweat. Peeling a banana would do it. Lovey was as oral as a baby. She would put anything into her mouth. And when she did not have a mouthful, she would babble on about whatever came into Mom's head. Dear hardly ever talked, although he could moan and growl and laugh. He touched Lovey whenever he could, and shot her long, smoldering looks. He was not furry exactly, but he was covered with fine silver hair. Dear was a little guy about my size. Although he had one of Upjohn's finest penises, elastic and overloaded with neurons, he was one of the least convincing males I had ever met. I doubt Mom herself believed in him all that much. Big, chatty woman, squirrely, tongue-tied little man. It was funny in a bent sort of way to watch the two of them go at each other, kind of like a tug churning against a supertanker. They did not get the chance that often. It was dangerous. Dear had to worry about getting crushed, and poor Lovey's heart had stopped 2 or 3 times. Besides, I think Mom liked building up the pressure. Sometimes, as the days without sex stretched, you could almost feel lust sparkling off them like static electricity. That was how they were when I brought Stenny up. Their suite took up the entire floor at the hips, Mom's widest part. Lovey was lolling in a tub of warm oil. She liked it flowery and laced with pheromones. Dear was prowling around her with a desperate expression, like he might jam his plug into a wall socket if he did not get taken care of soon. Stenny's timing was perfect. "Look who's come to visit, dear," said Lovey. "Peter and Stenny. How nice of you boys to stop by." She let Dear mop her forehead with a towel. "What can we do for you?" The skin under Stenny's jaw quivered. He glanced at me, then at Dear, and then at the thick red lips that served as the bathroom door. Never even looked at her. He was losing his nerve. "Oh, my, isn't this exciting, dear? There's something going on." She sank into the bath until her chin touched the water. "It's a secret, isn't it, Peter? Share it with Lovey." "No secret," I said. "He wants to ask a favor." And then I told her. She giggled and sat up. "I love it." Honey-colored oil ran from her hair and slopped between her breasts. "Were you thinking of both of us, Stenny, or just me?" "Well, Stenny's tail switched. "Maybe we just ought to forget it."
"No, no." She waved a hand at him. "Come here, Stenny. Come close, my pretty little monster."
He hesitated, then approached the tub. She reached for his right leg and touched him just above the heel knob.
"You know, I've always wondered what scales would feel like."
Her hand climbed. The oil made his yellow hide glisten. His eyes were the size of eggs. The bedroom was all mattress. Beneath the transparent skin was a screen implant, so that Mom could project images not only on the walls, but on the surface of the bed itself. Under the window was a layer of heavily vascular flesh, which could be stiffened with blood or drained until it was as soft as raw steak. A window dome arched over everything and could show slow-mo or thermographic FX across its span. The air was warm and wet and smelled like a chemical engineer's idea of a rose garden. I settled by the lips. Dear ghosted along the edges of the room, dragging his umbilical like a chain, never coming quite near enough to touch anyone. I heard him humming as he passed me, a low, moaning sing-song, as if to block out what was happening. Stenny and Lovey were too busy with each other to care. As Lovey knelt in front of Stenny, Dear gave a mocking laugh. I did not understand how he could be jealous. He was with her, part of it. Lovey and Dear were Mom's remotes, two nodes of her nervous system. Yet his pain was as obvious as her pleasure. At last he squatted and rocked back and forth on his heels. I glanced up at the FX dome. Yellow scales slid across oily rolls of flushed skin. I yawned. I had always found sex kind of dull. Besides, this was all on the record. I could have Conrad replay it for me any time. Lovey stopped breathing. Then came 4 or 5 shuddering gasps in a row. I wondered where Conrad had gone. I felt sorry for him. Stenny said something to her about rolling over. "Okay." Feathery skin sounds. A grunt. The soft, wet slap of flesh against flesh. I thought of my mother's brain up there in the head where no one ever went. I had no idea how much attention she was paying. Was she quivering with Lovey, and at the same time calculating insulation rates on her chloroplasts? Investing in soy futures on the Chicago Board of Trade? Fending off Welton Montross's latest attack? Plug Montross. I needed to think about something fun. My collection. I started piling bodies up in my mind. The hangings and the open casket funerals and the stacks of dead at the camps and all those muddy soldiers. I shivered as I remembered the empty, rigid faces. I liked it when their teeth showed. Oh! My greatest hits dated from the late 20th century. The dead were everywhere back then, in vids and the news, and even on T-shirts. They were not shy. That was what made Conrad's photo worth having. It was hard to find modern stuff that dirty. Dear brushed by me, his erection bobbing in front of him. It was as big around as my wrist. As he passed, I could see Stenny's leg scratch across the mattress skin, which glowed with blood-blue light. Lovey giggled beneath him, and her umbilical twitched, and suddenly I found myself wondering whether Tree was a virgin. I came into the mall through the Main Street entrance and hopped the westbound slidewalk headed up Elm Street toward the train station. If I caught the 3:36 to Grand Central, I could eat dinner in Manhattan, far from my problems with Montross and Conrad. Running away had always worked for me before. Let someone else clean up the mess while I was gone. The slidewalk carried me past a real estate agency, a flash bar, a jewelry store, and a Baskin-Robbins. I thought about where I wanted to go after New York. San Francisco? Montreal. Maybe I should try Elkhart, Indiana. No one would think to look for me there. Just ahead, between a drugstore and a take-out Russian restaurant, was the Wise Guy dealership where Mom had bought Conrad. I did not want to think about Conrad waiting for me to come home, so I stepped into the drugstore and bought a dose of Carefree for $4.29. Normally I did not bother with drugs. I had been stunted. No over-the-counter flash could compare to that. But the propyl dicarbamates were all right. I fished the cash card out of my pocket and handed it to the stiff behind the counter. He did a double-take when he saw the denomination, then carefully inserted the card into the reader to deduct the cost of the Carefree. It had my Mom's name on it. He must have expected it would trip some alarm for counterfeit plastic or stolen credit. He stared at me for a moment, as if trying to remember my face so he could describe me to a cop, and then gave the cash card back. The denomination readout said it was still good for $16,381.18. I picked out a bench in front of a specialty shop called the Happy Hippo, hiked up my shorts, and poked Carefree into the widest part of my thigh. I took a short, dreamy swim in the sea of tranquility, and when I came back to myself, my guilt had been washed away. But so had my energy. I sat for a while and scoped the display of glass hippos and plastic hippos and fuzzy stuffed hippos, hippo vids and sheets and candles. Down the bench from me a homeless woman dozed. It was still pretty early in the season for a weather gypsy to have come this far north. She wore red shorts and droopy red socks with plastic sandals and 4 long-sleeved shirts, all unbuttoned, over a funny-honey halter top. Her hair needed vacuuming, and she smelled old. All grown-ups smelled that way to me. It was something I had never gotten used to. No perfume or deodorant could cover up the leathery stink of adulthood. Kids could smell bad too, but usually from something they got on them. It did not come from a rotting body. I rubbed a finger in the dampness under my arm, slicked it, and sniffed. There was a sweetness to kid sweat. I touched the drying finger to my tongue. You could even taste it. If I gave up getting stunted, stopped being Mr. Boy, I would smell like the woman at the end of the bench. I would start to die. I had never understood how grown-ups could live with that. The gypsy woke up, stretched, and smiled at me with gummy teeth.
"You left comrade behind?"
she said. I was startled. "What did you say?"
"You know what this is?"
She twitched her sleeve, and a penlight appeared in her hand. My throat tightened. "I know what it looks like." She gave me a wicked smile, aimed the penlight, and burned a pinhole through the bench a few centimeters from my leg.
"Maybe I could interest you in some free laser surgery?"
I could smell scorched plastic. "You're going to needle me here, in the middle of the Elm Street Mall?" I thought she was bluffing. Probably. I hoped.
"If that's the way you want it. Mr. Montross wants to know when you're delivering the wise guy to us."
"Get away from me."
"Not until you do what needs to be done."
When I saw Happy Lurdane come out of the Happy Hippo, I waved. A desperation move, but then it was easy to be brave with a head full of carefree. "Mr. Boy," she veered over to us. "Hi." I scooted farther down the bench to make room for her between me and the gypsy. I knew she would stay to chat. Happy Lurdane was one of those chirpy lightweights who seemed to want lots of friends, but did not really try to be one. We tolerated her because she did not mind being snubbed, and she threw great parties. "Where have you been?" She settled beside me. "Haven't seen you in ages." The penlight disappeared, and the gypsy fell back into drowsy character. "Around. Want to see what I just bought?" I nodded. My heart was hammering. She opened the bag and took out a fist-sized bundle covered with shipping plastic. She unwrapped a statue of a blue hippopotamus. "Be careful." She handed it to me. Cute. The hippo had crude flower designs drawn on its body. It was chipped and cracked. Ancient Egyptian. That means it's even before antique. She pulled a slip from the bag and read, 12th Dynasty, 1991 to 1786 B.C. Can you believe you can just buy something like that here in the mall? I mean, it must be like 1,000 years old or something. Try 4,000. No wonder it cost so much. He wasn't going to sell it to me, so I had to spend some of next month's allowance. She took it from me and rewrapped it. It's for the smash party tomorrow. You're coming, aren't you? Maybe. Is something wrong? I ignored that. Hey, where's Comrade? I don't think I've ever seen you two apart before. I decided to take a chance. Want to get some doughboys? Sure. She glanced at me with delighted astonishment. Are you sure you're all right? I took her arm, maneuvering to keep her between me and the gypsy. If Happy got needled, it would be no great loss to Western civilization. She babbled on about her party as we stepped onto the westbound slidewalk. I turned to look back. The gypsy waved as she hopped the eastbound. Look, Happy, I said, I'm sorry, but I changed my mind. Later, okay? But I did not stop for an argument. I darted off the slidewalk and sprinted through the mall to the station. I went straight to a ticket window, shoved the cash card under the grill, and asked the agent for a one-way to Grand Central. 40,000 people lived in New Canaan. Most of them had heard of me because of my mom. 9 million strangers jammed New York City. It was a good place to disappear. The agent had my ticket in her hand when the reader beeped and spat the card out. No! I slammed my fist on the counter. Try it again. The cash card was guaranteed by Amex to be secure, and it had just worked at the drugstore. She glanced at the card, then slid it back under the grill. No use. The denomination readout flashed alternating messages. Voided and bank recall. You've got trouble, son. She was right. As I left the station, I felt the carefree struggle one last time with my dread, and lose. I did not even have the money to call home. I wandered around for a while, dazed, and then I was standing in front of the flower shop in the Elm Street Mall. Green Dream, Contemporary and Conventional Plants. I had telelinked with Tree every day since our drive, and every day she had asked me over, but I was not ready to meet her family. I suppose I was still trying to pretend she was not a stiff. I wavered to the door now, breathing the cool scent of damp soil in clay pots. The gypsy could come after me again. I might be putting these people in danger. Using Happy as a shield was one thing, but I liked Tree a lot. I backed away and peered through a window fringed with sweat and teeming with bizarre plants with flame-colored tongues. Someone wearing khaki moved. I could not tell if it was Tree or not. I thought of what she had said about no one having adventures in the mall. The front of the showroom was a green cave, darker than I had expected. Baskets dripping with bright flowers hung like stalactites. Leathery-leaved understory plants formed stalagmites. As I threaded my way toward the back, I came upon the kid I had seen wearing the Green Dream uniform, a khaki nightmare of pleats and flaps and brass buttons and about 6 too many pockets. He was misting leaves with a pump bottle filled with blue liquid. I decided he must be the brother. "Hi," I said. "I'm looking for Tremonisha." Fidel was shorter than me and darker than his sister. He had a wiry plush of beautiful black hair that I was immediately tempted to touch. "Are you?" He eyed me as if deciding how hard I would be to beat up. Then he smiled. He had crooked teeth. "You don't look like yourself." "No? What, are you scared?" "You're whiter than rice, Cashman." "Don't worry, the stiffs won't hurt you." Laughing, he feinted a punch at my arm. I was not reassured. "You're Fidel." "I've seen your DI files," he said. "I asked around. I know about you. So don't be telling my sister any more lies, understand?" He snapped his fingers in my face. "Behave yourself, Cashman, and we'll be fine." He still had the boyish excitability I had lost after the first stunting. "She's out back, so first you have to get by the old man." The rear of the store was brighter. Sunlight streamed through the clear crylac roof. There was a counter, and behind it a glass-doored refrigerator filled with cut flowers. A side entrance opened to the greenhouse. Mrs. Schliemann, one of Mom's lawyers who had an office in the mall, was deciding what to buy. She was shopping with her wise guy secretary, who looked like he had just stepped out of a vodka ad. "Wait." Fidel rested a hand on my shoulder. "I'll tell her you're here." "But how long will they last?" Mrs. Schliemann sniffed a frilly yellow flower. "I should probably get the Dura roses." "Whatever you want, Mrs. Schliemann. Dura roses are a good product. I sell them by the truckload," said Mr. Joplin with a chuckle. "But these carnations are real flowers, raised here in my greenhouse. So maybe you can't stick them in your dishwasher, but put some where people can touch and smell them, and I guarantee you'll get compliments." "Why, Peter Cage," said Mrs. Schliemann. "Is that you? I haven't seen you since the picnic. How's your mother?" She did not introduce our wise guy. "Extreme," I said. She nodded absently. "That's nice. All right, then, Mr. Joplin, give me a dozen of your carnations, and 2 dozen yellow Dura roses." Mrs. Schliemann chatted politely at me while Tree's father wrapped the order. He was a short, rumpled, balding man who smiled too much. He seemed to like wearing the corporate uniform. Anyone else would have fixed the hair and the wrinkles. Not Mr. Joplin. He was a museum-quality throwback. As he took Mrs. Schliemann's cash card from the wise guy, he beamed at me over his glasses. "Glasses?" When Mrs. Schliemann left, so did the smile. "Peter Cage," he said. "Is that your name?" "Mr. Boy is my name, sir." "You're Tree's new friend." He nodded. "She's told us about you. She's doing chores just now. You know we have to work for a living here." Sure, and I knew what he left unsaid. "Unlike you, you spoiled little freak." It was always the same with these stiffs. I walked in the door, and already they hated me. At least he was not pretending, like Mrs. Schliemann. I gave him 2 points for honesty and kept my mouth shut. "What is it you want here, Peter?" "Nothing, sir." If he was going to Peter me, I was going to sir him right back. "I just stopped by to say hello." Tremonisha did invite me, sir, but if you'd rather I left. No, Tree warned us you might come. She and Fidel raced into the room as if they were afraid their father and I would already be at each other's throats. "Oh, hi, Mr. Boy," she said. Her father snorted at the sound of my name. "Hi." I grinned at her. It was the easiest thing I had done that day. She was wearing her uniform. When she saw that I had noticed, she blushed. "Well, you asked for it." She tugged self-consciously at the waist of her fatigues. "You want to come in?" "Just a minute." Mr. Joplin stepped in front of the door, blocking our escape. "You finished E-class?" "Yes." "Checked the flats?" "I'm almost done." "After that, you'd better pick some dinner and get it started. Your mama called and said she wouldn't be home until 6:15. "Sure." "And you'll take orders for me on line 2? She leaned against the counter and sighed. "Do I have a choice?" He backed away and waved us through. "Sorry, sweetheart. I don't know how we would get along without you." He caught her brother by the shirt. "Not you, Fidel. You're misting, remember?" A short tunnel ran from their mall storefront to the rehabbed furniture warehouse built over the Amtrak rails. Green Dream had installed a Krylac roof and fans and a grow lighting system. The Joplins squeezed themselves into the leftover spaces not filled with inventory. The air in the greenhouse was heavy and warm, and it smelled like rain. No walls, no privacy other than that provided by the plants. "Here's where I sleep." Tree sat on her unmade bed. Her space was formed by a cinder-block wall painted yellow and a screen of palms. "Chinese fan, bamboo, lady, date, kentia," she said, naming them for me like they were her pets. "I grow them myself for spending money." Her school com was on top of her dresser. Several drawers hung open. Pink skin tights trailed from one. Clothes were scattered like piles of leaves across the floor. "I guess I'm kind of a slob," she said as she stripped off the uniform, wadded it, and then banked it off the dresser into the top drawer. I could see her bare back in the mirror plastic taped to the wall. "Take your things off if you want." I hesitated. "Or not. But it's kind of muggy to stay dressed. You'll sweat." I unvelcroed my shirt. I did not mind at all seeing Tree without clothes, but I did not undress for anyone except the stiffs at the clinic. I stepped out of my pants. Being naked somehow had got connected with being helpless. I had this puckery feeling in my dick, like it was going to curl up and die. I could imagine the gypsy popping out from behind a palm and laughing at me. No, I was not going to think about that. Not here. "Comfortable?" said Tree. "Sure." My voice was turning to dust in my throat. "Do all Green Dream employees run around the back room in the nude?" "I doubt it." She smiled as if the thought tickled her. "We're not exactly your average mall drones. Come help me finish the chores." I was glad to let her lead so that she was not looking at me, although I could still watch her. I was fascinated by the sweep of her buttocks, the curve of her spine. She strolled, flat-footed and at ease, through her private jungle. At first I scuttled along on the balls of my feet, ready to dart behind a plant if anyone came. But after a while I decided to stop being so skittish. I realized I would probably survive being naked. Tree stopped in front of a workbench covered with potted seedlings and plastic trays and picked up a hose from the floor. "What's this stuff?" I kept to the opposite side of the bench, using it to cover myself. "Greens." She lifted a seedling to check the water level in the tray beneath. "What are greens?" "It's too boring." She squirted some water in and replaced the seedling. "Tell me, I'm interested." "In greens? You liar." She glanced at me and shook her head. "Okay." She pointed as she said the names. "Lettuce, spinach, bok choy, chard, kale, rocket. Got that? And a few tomatoes over there. Peppers, too. GD is trying to break into the food business. They think people will grow more of their own if they find out how easy it is." "Is it?" "Greens are." She inspected the next tray. "Just add water." "Yeah, sure." "It's because they've been photosynthetically enhanced. Bigger leaves arranged better, low respiration rates. They teach us this stuff at GD Family Camp. It's what we do instead of vacation." She squashed something between her thumb and forefinger. "They mix all these bacteria that make their own fertilizer into the soil, fix nitrogen right out of the air. And then there's this other stuff that sticks to the roots, rhizobacteria and mycorrhizae." She finished the last tray and coiled the hose. "These flats will produce under candlelight in a closet." "Bored yet?" "How do they taste?" pretty bland, most of them. Some stink, like kale and rocket. But we have to eat them for the good of the corporation. She stuck her tongue out. You want to stay for dinner? Mrs. Joplin made me call home before she would feed me. She refused to understand that my mom did not care. So I linked, asked Mom to send a car to the back door at 8:30, and faded. No time to discuss the missing $16,000. Dinner was from the cookbook Tree had been issued at camp, a bowl of cold bean soup, fresh cornbread, and chard and cheese loaf. She let me help her make it, even though I had never cooked before. I was amazed at how simple cornbread was. 6 ingredients: flour, cornmeal, baking powder, milk, oil, and overbinder. Mix and pour into a greased pan. Bake 20 minutes at 220 Celsius, and serve. There is nothing magic or even very mysterious about homemade cornbread, except for the way its smell held me spellbound. Supper was the Joplins' daily meal together. They ate in front of security windows near the tunnel to the store. When a customer came, someone ran out front. According to contract, they had to stay open 24 hours a day. Many of the suburban malls had gone to all-night operation. The competition from New York City was deadly. Mr. Joplin stood duty most of the time, but since they were a franchise family, everybody took turns. Even Mrs. Joplin, who also worked part-time as a fact-finder at the mall's data stop. Tree's mother was plump and graying, and she had a smile that was almost bright enough to distract me from her naked body. She seemed harmless, except that she knew how to ask questions. After all, her job was finding out stuff for data stop customers. She had this way of locking on to you as you talked. The longer the conversation, the greater her intensity. It was hard to lie to her. Normally, that kind of aggressiveness in grown-ups made me jumpy. No doubt she had run a search on me. I wondered just what she had turned up. Fact-finders had to obey the law, so they only accessed public domain information, unlike Conrad, who would cheerfully operate on whatever I set him to. The Joplins' bank records, for instance. I knew that Mrs. Joplin had made about $11,000 last year at the Infomat in the Elkhart Mall, that the family borrowed $135,000 at 9.78% interest to move to their new franchise, and that they lost $213 in their first 2 months in New Canaan. I kept my research a secret, of course, and they acted innocent, too. I let them pump me about Mom as we ate. I was used to being asked. After all, Mom was famous. Fidel wanted to know how much it had cost her to get twanked, how big she was, what she looked like on the inside, and what she ate, if she got cold in the winter, stuff like that. The others asked more personal questions. Tree wondered if Mom ever got lonely and whether she was going to be the Statue of Liberty for the rest of her life. Mrs. Joplin was interested in Mom's remotes, of all things. Which ones I got along with, which ones I could not stand, whether I thought any of them was really her. Mr. Joplin asked if she liked being what she was. How was I supposed to know? After dinner, I helped Fidel clear the table. While we were alone in the kitchen, he complained, "You think they eat this shit at GD headquarters?" He scraped his untouched charred loaf into the composter. I kind of liked the cornbread. If only he'd buy meat once in a while, but he's too cheap. Or doughboys. Tree says you bought her doughboys. I told him to skip school sometime, and we would go out for lunch. He thought that was a great idea. When we came back out, Mr. Joplin actually smiled at me. He had been losing his edge all during dinner. Maybe Chard agreed with him. He pulled a pipe from his pocket, began stuffing something into it, and asked me if I followed baseball. I told him no. Paintball? No. Basketball. I said I watched dino fights sometimes. His pal is the dinosaur that goes to our school, said Fidel. He may look like a dinosaur, but he's really a boy, said Mr. Joplin, as if making an important distinction. The dinosaurs died out millions of years ago. Humans aren't allowed in dino fights, I said, just to keep the conversation going. Only twanked dogs and horses and elephants. Silence. Mr. Joplin puffed on his pipe and then passed it to his wife. She watched the glow in the bowl through half-lidded eyes as she inhaled. Fidel caught me staring. "What's the matter? Don't you get twisted?" He took the pipe in his turn. I was so croggled I did not know what to say. Even the Marleys had switched to THC inhalers. But smoking is bad for you. It smelled like a dirty sock had caught fire. Hemp is ancient, natural. Mr. Joplin spoke in a clipped voice, as if swallowing his words. Opens the mind to what's real. When he sighed, smoke poured out of his nose. We grow it ourselves, you know. I took the pipe when Tree offered it. Even before I brought the stem to my mouth, the world tilted, and I watched myself slide into what seemed very much like an hallucination. Here I was, sitting around naked, in the mall, with a bunch of stiffs, smoking antique drugs. And I was enjoying myself. Incredible. I inhaled, and immediately the flash hit me. It was as if my brain were an enormous bud blooming inside my head. Good stuff! I laughed smoke, and then began coughing. Fidel refilled my glass with ice water. Have a sip, Cashman. Customer, Tree pointed at the window. Leave, Mr. Joplin waved impatiently at him. Go away! The man on the screen knelt and turned over the price tag on a fern. Damn! He jerked his uniform from the hook by the door, pulled on the khaki pants, and was slithering into the shirt as he disappeared down the tunnel. So is Green Dream trying to break into the flash market, too? I handed the pipe to Mrs. Joplin. There was a fleck of ash on her left breast. What we do back here is our business, she said. We work hard so we can live the way we want. Tree was studying her fingerprints. I realized I had said the wrong thing, so I shut up. Obviously, the Joplins were drifting from the lifestyle taught at Green Dream Family Camp. Fidel announced he was going to school tomorrow, and Mrs. Joplin told him no, he could link to E-class as usual, and Fidel claimed he could not concentrate at home, and Mrs. Joplin said he was trying to get out of his chores. While they were arguing, Tree nudged my leg and shot me a "let's leave" look. I nodded. Excuse us? She pushed back her chair. Mr. Boy has got to go home soon. Mrs. Joplin pointed for her to stay. You wait until your father gets back, she said. Tell me, Mr. Boy, have you lived in New Canaan long? All my life, I said. And how old did you say you were? Mama, he's 25, said Tree. I told you. And what do you do for a living? Mama, you promised. Nothing, I said. I'm lucky, I guess. I don't need to worry about money. If you didn't need to work, would you? Everybody needs work to do, Mrs. Joplin said. Work makes us real. Unless you have work to do and people who love you, you don't exist. Talk about 20th century humanist goop. At another time and another place, I probably would have snapped, but now the words would not come. My brain had turned into a flower. All I could think were daisy thoughts. The Joplins were such a strange combination of fast-forward and rewind. I could not tell what they wanted from me. $17.99, said Mr. Joplin, returning from the storefront. What's going on in here? He glanced at his wife, and some signal, which I did not catch, passed between them. He circled the table, came up behind me, and laid his heavy hands on my shoulders. I shuddered. I thought for a moment he meant to strangle me. I'm not going to hurt you, Peter, he said. Before you go, I have something to say. Daddy. Tree squirmed in her chair. Fidel looked uncomfortable, too, as if he guessed what was coming. Sure. I did not have much choice. The weight on my shoulders eased, but did not entirely go away. You should feel the ache in this boy, LaDonna. I know, said Mrs. Joplin. Hard as plastic. Mr. Joplin touched the muscles corded along my neck. You get too hard, you snap. He set his thumbs at the base of my skull and kneaded with an easy circular motion. Your body isn't some machine that you've downloaded into. It's alive, real. You have to learn to listen to it. That's why we smoke. Hear these muscles? They're screaming. He let his hand slide down my shoulders. Now, listen. His fingertips probed along my upper spine. Hear that? Your muscles stay tense because you don't trust anyone. You always have to be ready to take a hit, and you can't tell where it's coming from. You're rigid and angry and scared. Reality. Your body is speaking to you. His voice was as big and warm as his hands. Tree was giving him a look that could boil water, but the way he touched me made too much sense to resist. We don't mind helping you ease the strain. That's the way Mrs. Joplin and I are. That's the way we brought the kids up. But first you have to admit you're hurting. And then you have to respect us enough to take what we have to give. I don't feel that in you, Peter. You're not ready to give up your pain. You just want us poor stiffs to admire how hard it's made you. We haven't got time for that kind of shit, okay? You learn to listen to yourself, and you'll be welcome around here. We'll even call you Mr. Boy, even though it's a damn stupid name." No one spoke for a moment. "Sorry, Tree," he said. "We've embarrassed you again. But we love you, so you're stuck with us." I could feel it in his hands when he chuckled. "I suppose I do get carried away sometimes." "Sometimes," said Fidel. Tree just smouldered. "It's late," said Mrs. Joplin. "Let him go now, Jamal. His mamma's sending a car over." Mr. Joplin stepped back, and I almost fell off my chair from leaning back against him. I stood shakily. "Thanks for dinner." Tree stalked through the greenhouse to the rear exit, her hairworks glittering against her bare back. I had to trot to keep up with her. There was no car in sight, so we waited at the doorway, and I put on my clothes. "I can't take much more of this." She stared through the little wire glass window in the door, like a prisoner plotting her escape. "I mean, he's not a psychologist or a great philosopher or whatever the hell he thinks he is. He's just a pompous mall drone." "He's not that bad." Actually, I understood what her father had said to me. It was scary. "I like your family." "You don't have to live with them." She kept watching at the door. "They promised they'd behave with you. I should have known better. This happens every time I bring someone home." She puffed an imaginary pipe, imitating her father. "Think what you're doing to yourself, you poor fool, and say, isn't it just too bad about modern life? Love, love, love. Fuck!" She turned to me. "I'm sick of it. People are going to think I'm as sappy and thick-headed as my parents. I don't. You're lucky. You're rich, and your mom leaves you alone. You're New Canaan. My folks are Elkhart, Indiana." "Being New Canaan is nothing to brag about." "So what are you?" "Not a Joplin." She shook her head. "Not much longer, anyway. I'm 18 in February. I think your car's here." She held out her arms and hugged me goodbye. "Sorry you had to sit through that. Don't drop me, okay? I like you, Mr. Boy." She did not let go for a while. Dropping her had never occurred to me. I was not thinking of anything at all except the silkiness of her skin, the warmth of her body. Her breath whispered through my hair, and her nipples brushed my ribs, and then she kissed me. Just on the cheek, but the damage was done. I was stunted. I was not supposed to feel this way about anyone. Comrade was waiting in the back seat. We rode home in silence. I had nothing to say to him. He would not understand. None of my friends would. They would warn me that all she wanted was to spend some of my money. Or they would make bad jokes about the nudity or the Joplin's mushy realism. No way I could explain the innocence of the way they touched one another. "The old man did what to you?" Yeah, and if I wanted a hug at home, who was I supposed to ask? Comrade? Lovey? The greeter? Was I supposed to climb up to the head and fall asleep against Mom's doorbone, waiting for it to open like I used to do when I was really a kid? The greeter was her usual non-stick self when I got home. She was so glad to see me, and she wanted to know where I had been, and if I had a good time, and if I wanted cook to make me a snack. Around. Yes. No. She said the bank had called about some problem with one of the cash cards she had given me, a security glitch which they had taken care of and were very sorry about. Did I know about it, and did I need a new card, and would 20,000 be enough? Yes, please. Thanks. And that was it. I found myself resenting Mom because she did not have to care about losing $16,000 or $20,000 or $50,000. And she had reminded me of my problems when all I wanted to think of was Tree. She was no help to me, never had been. I had things so twisted around that I almost told her about Montross myself, just to get a reaction. Here some guy had tapped our files and threatened my life, and she asked if I wanted a snack. Why keep me around if she was going to pay so little attention? I wanted to shock her, to make her take me seriously. But I did not know how. The room brain woke me. "Stenny's calling?" "Talk to me, Mr. Party Boy." A window opened. He was in his car. "You dead or alive?" "Asleep." I rolled over. time is it?" 10:30 and I'm bored. Want me to come get you now, or should I meet you there?" "What? Happy's? Don't tell me. You forgot. They're doing a piano." "Who cares?" I crawled out of bed and dropped into the bathroom. "She says she's asking Tree Joplin," Stenny called after me. "Asking her what?" I came out. "To the party." "Is she going?" "She's your cush." He gave me a toothy smile. "Call back when you're ready. Later." He faded. "She left a message," said the room brain. "Half-hour ago." "Tree? You got me up for Stenny and not for her?" "He's on the list. She's not. Happy called too." "Conrad should have told you. Where is he?" Now I was grouchy. "She's on the list, okay? Give me playback." Tree seemed pleased with herself. "Hi, this is me. I got myself invited to a smash party this afternoon. You want to go?" She faded. "That's all? Call her." "Both our numbers are busy. I'll set redial. I found Conrad. He's on another line. You want Happy's message?" "No." "Yes." "You promised, Mr. Boy." Happy giggled. "Look, you really, really don't want to miss this. Stenny's coming, and he said I should ask Joplin if I wanted you here. So you've got no excuse." Someone tugged at her. "Stop that." "Sorry, I'm being molested by a thick—" She battered at her assailant. "Mr. Boy, did I tell you that this Japanese reporter is coming to shoot a vid?" "What?" She turned off camera. "Sure, just like on the Nature Channel, Wildlife of America. We're all going to be famous. In Japan. This is history, Mr. Boy, and you're—" Her face froze as the redial program finally linked to the Green Dream. The room brain brought Tree up in a new window. "Oh, hi," she said. "You rich boys sleep late." "What's this about Happy's?" "She invited me." Tree was recharging her hairworks with a red brush. I said yes. Something wrong? Conrad slipped into the room. I shushed him. "You sure you want to go to a smash party? Sometimes they get a little crazy." She aimed the brush at me. "You've been to smash parties before. You survived." "Sure, but—" "Well, I haven't. All I know is that everybody at school is talking about this one, and I want to see what it's about." "You tell your parents you're going?" "Are you kidding? They'd just say it was too dangerous." "What's the matter, Mr. Boy? Are you scared?" "Come on, it'll be extreme." "She's right. You should go," said Comrade. "Is that Comrade?" Tree said. "You tell him, Comrade." I glared at him. Okay, I guess I'm outnumbered. Stenny said he'd drive. You want us to pick you up?" She did. I flew at Conrad as soon as Tree faded. "Don't you ever do that again!" I shoved him, and he bumped up against the wall. "I ought to throw you to Montrose." "You know, I just finished chatting with him." Conrad stayed calm and made no move to defend himself. "He wants to meet the three of us face to face. He suggested Happy's." "He suggested? I told you not to talk to him." "I know." He shrugged. "Anyway, I think we should do it." "Who gave you permission to think?" "You did." "What if we give him the picture back and open our files, and then I grovel, say I'm sorry, it'll never happen again, blah, blah, blah. Maybe we can even buy him off. What have we got to lose?" "You can't bribe software. And what if he decides to snatch us?" I told Conrad about the gypsy with the penlight. "You want Tree mixed up in this?" All the expression drained from his face. He did not say anything at first, but I had watched his subroutines long enough to know that when he looked this blank he was shaken. "So we take a risk. Maybe we can get it over with," he said. "He's not interested in Tree, and I won't let anything happen to you. Why do you think your mom bought me?" Happy Lurdane lived on the former estate of Philip Johnson, a notorious 20th-century architect. In his will, Johnson had arranged to turn his compound into the Philip Johnson Memorial Museum, but after he died his work went out of fashion. The glass skyscrapers in the cities did not age well. They started to fall apart or were torn down because they wasted energy. Nobody visited the museum, and it went bankrupt. The Lurdanes had bought the property and made some changes. Johnson had designed all the odd little buildings on the estate himself. The main house was a shoebox of glass with no inside walls. Near it stood a windowless brick guest-house. On a pond below was a dock that looked like a Greek temple. Past the circular swimming pool near the houses were two galleries which had once held Johnson's art collection, long since sold off. In Johnson's day, the scattered buildings had been connected only by paths, which made the compound impossible in the frosty Connecticut winters. The Lurdanes had enclosed the paths in clear tubes and commuted in a golf cart. Stenny told his Alpha not to wait, since the lot was already full and cars were parked well down the driveway. 5 of us squeezed out of the car, me, Tree, Comrade, Stenny, and Janet Hoyt. Janet wore a Yankees jersey over pinstriped shorts. Tree was a little overdressed in her silver jaunts. I had on baggies padded to make me seem bigger, and Conrad wore his usual window coat. Stenny lugged a box with his swag for the party. Freddie the Teddy let us in. "Stenny and Mr. Boy!" He reared back on his hindquarters and roared. "Glad I'm not going to be the only beastie here. Hi, Janet." "Hi, I'm Freddie," he said to Tree. His pink tongue lolled. "Come in, this way. Fun starts right here. Some kids are swimming and there's sex in the guest house. Everybody else is with Happy having lunch in the sculpture gallery." The interior of the glass house was bright and hard. Dark wood block floor, some unfriendly furniture, huge panes of glass framed in black painted steel. The few kids in the kitchen were passing an inhaler around and watching a microwave fill up with popcorn. "I'm hot." Janet stuck the inhaler into her face and pressed. "Anybody want to swim? Tree?" "Okay." Tree breathed in a polite dose and breathed out a giggle. "You?" she asked me. "I don't think so." I was too nervous. I kept expecting someone to jump out and throw a net over me. "I'll watch." "I'd swim with you," said Stenny, "but I promised Happy I'd bring her these party favors as soon as I arrived." He nudged the box with his foot. "Can you wait a few minutes?" "Comrade and I will take them over." I grabbed the box and headed for the door, glad for the excuse to leave Tree behind while I went to find Montrose. "Meet you at the pool." The golf cart was gone, so we walked through the tube toward the sculpture gallery. "You have the picture?" I said. Comrade patted the pocket of his window coat. The tube was not air-conditioned, and the afternoon sun pounded us through the optical plastic. There was no sound inside. Even our footsteps were swallowed by the astroturf. The box got heavier. We passed the entrance to the old painting gallery, which looked like a bomb shelter. Finally, I had to break the silence. "I feel strange being here," I said. "Not just because of the thing with Montrose. I really think I lost myself last time I got stunted. Not sure who I am anymore. But I don't think I belong with these kids." "People change, Tovarish," said Comrade. "Even you." "Have I changed?" He smiled. "Now that you've got a cush, your own mother wouldn't recognize you." "You know what your problem is?" I grinned and bumped up against him on purpose. "You're jealous of Tree." "Shouldn't I be?" "Oh, I don't know. I can't tell if Tree likes who I was or who I might be. She's changing, too. She's so hot to break away from her parents, become part of this town. Except that what she's headed for probably isn't worth the trip. I feel like I should protect her, but that means guarding her from people like me, except I don't think I'm Mom's Mr. Boy anymore. Does that make sense?" "Sure." He gazed straight ahead, but all the heads on his window coat were scoping me. "Maybe when you are finished changing, you won't need me." The thought had occurred to me. For years he had been the only one I could talk to, but as we closed on the gallery, I did not know what to say. I shook my head. "I just feel strange." And then we arrived. The sculpture gallery was designed for show-offs. Short flights of steps and a series of stagey balconies descended around the white brick exterior walls to the central exhibition area. The space was open, so you could chat with your little knot of friends and at the same time spy on everyone else. About 30 kids were eating pizza and Crispex off paper plates. At the bottom of the stairs, as advertised, was a black, upright piano. Piled beside it was the rest of the swag. A Boston rocker, a case of green Coke bottles, a Virgin Mary and half a blue bathtub, a huge conch shell, china and crystal, and assorted smaller treasures, including a 4,000-year-old ceramic hippo. There were real animals, too, in cages near the gun rack. A turkey, some stray dogs and cats, turtles, frogs, assorted rodents. I was threading my way across the first balcony when I was stopped by the Japanese reporter, who was wearing microcam eyes. "Excuse me, please," he said. "I am Matsuo Shikibu, and I will be recording this event today for Nippon Hoso Kyokai, Public Telelink of Japan." He smiled and bowed. When his head came up, the red light between his lenses was on. "You are?" "Raskolnikov," said Comrade, edging between me and the camera. "Rodeo Raskolnikov." He took Shikibu's hand and pumped it. "And my associate here, Mr. Peter Pan." He turned as if to introduce me, but we had long since choreographed this dodge. As I sidestepped past, he kept shielding me from the reporter with his body. "We're friends of the bride," Comrade said, "and we're really excited to be making new friends in your country. Banzai, Nippon." I slipped by them and scooted downstairs. Happy was basking by the piano. She spotted me as I reached the middle landing. "Mr. Boy!" It was not so much a greeting as an announcement. She was wearing a body mic, and her voice boomed over the sound system. "You made it!" The stream of conversation rippled momentarily. A few heads turned, and then the party flowed on. Shikibu rushed to the edge of the upper balcony and caught me with a long shot. I set the box on the Steinway. "Stenny brought this." She opened it eagerly. "Look, everyone!" She held up a stack of square cardboard albums, about 30 centimeters on a side. There were pictures of musicians on the front, words on the back. "What are they?" she asked me. "Phonograph records," said the kid next to Happy. "It's how they used to play music before digital." "Errol Garner Soliloquy," she read aloud. "What's this? DJANGO, Reinhardt and the American Jazz Giants?" "Sounds scary." She giggled as she pawed quickly through the other albums. Handy, Ellington, Hawkins, Parker, 3 Armstrongs. One was Piano Rags by Scott Joplin. Stenny's bent idea of a joke? Maybe the lizard was smarter than he looked. Happy pulled a black plastic record out of one sleeve and scratched a fingernail across little ridges. "Oh, a non-slip surface." The party had a limited attention span. When she realized she had lost her audience, she shut off the mic and put the box with the rest of the swag. "We have to start at 4, no matter what. There's so much stuff." The kid who knew about records wormed into our conversation. Happy put her hand on his shoulder. "Mr. Boyd, do you know my friend Weldon?" she said. "He's new." Montross grinned. "We met on Playroom." "Where is Stenny, anyway?" said Happy. "Swimming," I said. Montross appeared to be in his late teens. Bigger than me. Everyone was bigger than me. He wore green shorts and a window shirt of Surfers at Waimea. He looked like everybody. There was nothing about him to remember. I considered bashing the smirk off his face, but it was a bad idea. If he was software, he could not feel anything, and I would probably break my hand on his temporary chassis. "Gotta go. I promised Stenny I'd meet him back at the pool. Hey, Weldon, want to tag along?" "You come right back," said Happy. "We're starting at 4. Tell everyone." We avoided the tube and cut across the lawn for privacy. Conrad handed Montross the envelope. He slid the photograph out, and I had one last glimpse. This time the dead man left me cold. In fact, I was embarrassed. Although he kept a straight face, I knew what Montross was thinking about me. Maybe he was right. I wished he would put the picture away. He was not one of us. He could not understand. I wondered if Tree had come far enough yet to appreciate corpse porn. "It's the only copy," Comrade said. "All right." Finally, Montross crammed it into the pocket of his shorts. "You tapped our files. You know it's true." "So?" "So enough," I said. "You have what you wanted." "I've already explained." Montross was being patient. "Getting this back doesn't close the case. I have to take preventive measures." "Meaning you turn Conrad into a carrot?" "Meaning I repair him. You're the one who took him to the chop shop. Deregulated wise guys are dangerous. Maybe not to you, but certainly to property and probably to other people. It's a straightforward procedure. He'll be fully functional afterward." "Plug your procedure, Jack. We're leaving." Both wise guys stopped. "I thought you agreed," said Montross. "Let's go, Comrade." I grabbed his arm, but he shook me off. "Where?" he said. "Anywhere, just so I never have to listen to this again." I pulled again, angry at Conrad for stalling. "Your wise guy is supposed to anticipate your needs, do whatever you want." "But we haven't even tried to—" "Forget it, then. I give up." I pushed him toward Montross. "You want to chat? Fine, go right ahead. Let him rip the top of your head off while you're at it, but I'm not sticking around to watch." I checked the pool, but Tree, Stenny, and Janet had already gone. I went through the glass house and caught up with them in the tube to the sculpture gallery. "Can I talk to you?" I put my arm around Tree's waist, just like I had seen grown-ups do. "In private?" I could tell she was annoyed to be separated from Janet. "We'll catch up." I waved Stenny on. "See you over there." She waited until they were gone. What? Her hair, slick from swimming, left dark spots where it brushed her silver jaunts. "I want to leave. We'll call my mom's car." She did not look happy. "I'll take you anywhere you want to go." "But we just got here. Give it a chance." "I've been to too many of these things." "Then you shouldn't have come." Silence. I wanted to tell her about Montrose. Everything. But not here. Anyone could come along, and the tube was so hot. I was desperate to get her away, so I lied. "Believe me, you're not going to like this. I know." I tugged at her waist. "Sometimes even I think smash parties are too much." "We've had this discussion before," she said. "Obviously you weren't listening. I don't need you to decide for me whether I'm going to like something, Mr. Boy. I have 2 parents too many. I don't need another." She stepped away from me. "Hey, I'm sorry if you're having a bad time, but do you really need to spoil it for me?" She turned and strode down the tube toward the gallery, her beautiful hair slapping against her back. I watched her go. "But I'm in trouble," I muttered to the empty tube, and then was disgusted with myself because I did not have the guts to say it to Tree. I was too scared she would not care. I stood there, sweating. For a moment the stink of doubt filled my nostrils. Then I followed her in. I could not abandon her to the extremists. The gallery was jammed now. Maybe 100 kids swarmed across the balconies and down the stairs. Some perched along the edges, their feet scuffing the white brick. Happy had turned up the volume. "According to Guinness, was set at the University of Oklahoma in Norman, Oklahoma in 2012. 3 minutes and 14 seconds. The crowd rumbled in disbelief. "The challenge states each piece must be small enough to pass through a hole 30 centimeters in diameter." I worked my way to an opening beside a rubber tree. Happy posed on the keyboard of the piano. Freddie the Teddy and the Gorilla Brothers, Mike and Bubba, lined up beside her. "No mechanical tools are allowed." She gestured at an armory of axes, sledgehammers, spikes, and crowbars laid out on the floor. A paper plate spun across the room. I could not see Tree. "This piano is over 200 years old," Happy continued, "which means the white keys are ivory." She plunked a note. "Dead elephants." Everybody heaved a sympathetic "Aw." "The blacks are ebony, hacked from the rainforest." Another note, less reaction. "It deserves to die." Applause. Conrad and I spotted each other at almost the same time. He and Montrose stood toward the rear of the lower balcony. He gestured for me to come down. I ignored him. "Do you boys have anything to say?" Happy said, "Yeah." Freddie hefted an axe. "Let's make landfill." I ducked around the rubber tree and heard the crack of splitting wood, the iron groan of a piano frame yielding its last music. The spectators hooted approval. As I bumped past kids searching for Tree, the instrument's death cry made me think of taking a hammer to Montrose. If fights broke out, no one would care if Conrad and I dragged him outside. I wanted to beat him until he shuddered and came unstrung and his works glinted in the thudding August light. It would make me feel extreme again. Crunch! Kids shrieked, "Go, go, go!" The party was lifting off and taking me with it. "You are Mr. Boycage." Abruptly, Shikibu's microcam eyes were in my face. "We know your famous mother." He had to shout to be heard. "I have a question." "Go away." 30 seconds. A girl's voice boomed over the speakers. U.S. and Japan are very different, yes? He pressed closer. We, on our ancestors, are past. You seem to hate so much. He gestured at the gallery. Why? Maybe we're spoiled. I barged past him. I saw Freddie swing a sledgehammer at the exposed frame. Clang! A chunk of twisted iron clattered across the brick floor, trailing broken strings. Happy scooped the mess up and shoved it through a 30-centimeter hole drilled in an upright sheet of particle board. The timekeeper called out again, 1 minute. I had come far enough around the curve of the stairs to see her. Tremonisha! She glanced up, her face alight with pleasure, and waved. I was frightened for her. She was climbing into the same box I needed to break out of, so I rushed down the stairs to rescue her, little boy knight in shining armor, and ran right into Conrad's arms. "I've decided," he said.
"Nie, все оставлю."
Great. I had to get to Tree. Later, okay? When I tried to go by, he picked me up. I started thrashing. It was the first fight of the afternoon, and I lost. He carried me over to Montrose. The gallery was in an uproar. "All set," said Montrose. "I'll have to borrow him for a while. I'll drop him off tonight at your mom. Then we're done." Done? I kept trying to get free, but Conrad crushed me against him. "It's what you want." His body was so hard. "And what your mom wants." "Mom? She doesn't even know." "She knows everything," Conrad said. "She watches you constantly. What else does she have to do all day?" He let me go. "Remember you said I was sloppy getting the picture? I wasn't. It was a clean operation. Only someone tipped Data Safe off." "But she promised. Besides, that makes no—" "2 minutes," Tree called. "But he threatened me," I said. "He was going to blow me up, needle me in the mall." "We wouldn't do that." Montrose spread his hands innocently. "It's against the law." "Yeah? Well, then drop dead, Jack." I poked a finger at him. "Deal's off." "No, it's not," said Conrad. "It's too late. This isn't about the picture anymore, Mr. Boy. It's about you. You weren't supposed to change, but you did. Maybe they botched the last stunting. Maybe it's tremonisha. Whatever. You've outgrown me, the way I am now. So I have to change too, or else I'll keep getting in your way." He always had everything under control. It made me crazy. He was too good at running my life. "You should have told me Mom turned you in." Crash! I felt like the crowd was inside my head, screaming. "You could have figured it out if you wanted to. Besides, if I had said anything, your mom wouldn't have bothered to be subtle. She would have squashed me. She still might, even though I'm being fixed. Only by then I won't care. Rozprojebę twaniu mat." I heard Tree finishing the count. 12, 13, 14. No record today. Some kids began to boo, others laughed. "Time's up, you losers." I glared at the 2 wise guys. Montrose was busy emulating sincerity. Conrad found a way to grin for me, the same smirk he always wore when he tortured the greeter. "It's easier this way." Easier. My life was too plugging easy. I had never done anything important by myself, not even grow up. I wanted to smash something. "Okay," I said. "You asked for it." Conrad turned to Montrose, and they shook hands. I thought next they might clap one another on the shoulder and whistle as they strolled off into the sunset together. I felt like puking. "Have fun," said Conrad. "Das Svedanya." Sure. Betraying Conrad, my best friend, brought me both pain and pleasure at once, but not enough to satisfy the shrieking wildness within me. The party was just starting. Happy stood beaming beside the ruins of the Steinway. Although nothing of what was left was more than half a meter tall, Freddie, Mike, and Bubba had given up now that the challenge was lost. Kids were already surging down the stairs to claim their share of the swag. I went along with them. "Don't worry," announced Happy. "Plenty for everyone. Come take what you like. Remember, guns and animals outside, if you want to hunt. The safeties won't release unless you go through the door. Watch out for one another, people. We don't want anyone shot." A bunch of kids were wrestling over the turkey cage. One of them staggered backwards and knocked into me. "Gobble, gobble," she said. I shoved her back. "Mr. Boy, over here." Tree, Stenny, and Janet were waiting on the far side of the gallery. As I crossed to them, Happy gave the sign, and Stone Kincaid hurled the 4,000-year-old ceramic hippo against the wall. It shattered. Everybody cheered. In the upper balconies they were playing catch with a frog. "You see who kept time?" said Janet. "Didn't need to see," I said. "I could hear. They probably heard an elk cart. So you like it, Tree?" "It's about what I expected. Dumb, but fun. I don't think that—" The frog sailed from the top balcony and splattered at our feet. Its legs twitched and guts spilled from its open mouth. I watched Tree's smile turn brittle. She seemed slightly embarrassed, as if she had just been told the price of something she could not afford. "This is going to be a war zone soon," Stenny said. "Yeah, let's fade." Janet towed Stenny to the stairs, swerving around the 3 boys lugging Our Lady of the Bathtub out to the firing range. "Wait." I blocked Tree. "You're here, so you have to destroy something. Get with the program." "I have to?" She seemed doubtful. "Oh, all right, but no animals." A hail of antique Coke bottles crashed around Happy as she directed traffic at the dwindling swag heap. "Hey, people, please be very careful where you throw things." Her amplified voice blasted us as we approached. The first floor was a graveyard of broken glass and piano bones and bloody feathers. Most of the good stuff was already gone. "Any records left?" I said. Happy wobbled closer to me. "What?" She seemed punchy, as if stunned by the success of her own party. "The box I gave you, from Steny." She pointed. I spotted it under some cages and grabbed it. Tree and the others were on the stairs. Outside I could hear the crackle of small arms fire. I caught up. "Sir, Mr. Dinosaur, please." The press still lurked on the upper balcony. "Matsuo Shikibu, Japanese Telelink NHK. Could I speak with you for a moment?" "Excuse me, but this Jack and I have some unfinished business." I handed Steny the records and cut in front. He swayed and lashed his tail upward to counterbalance their weight. "Remember me?" I bowed to Shikibu. "My apologies if I offended—" "Hey, Matsuo! Can I call you Matsuo? This is your first smash party, right? Please, eyes on me. I want to explain why I was rude before. Help you understand the local customs. You see, we're kind of self-conscious here in the U.S. We don't like it when someone just watches while we play. You either join in or you're not one of us." My little speech drew a crowd. "What's he talking about?" said Janet. She was shushed. "So, if you drop by our party and don't have fun, people resent you," I told him. "No one came here today to put on a show. This is who we are, what we believe in." "Yeah," Steny was cheerleading for the extreme Mr. Boy of old. "Tell him." Too bad he did not realize it was his final appearance. What was Mr. Boy without his comrade? "Make him feel some pain." I snatched an album from the top of the stack, slipped the record out, and held it close to Shikibu's microcam eyes. "What does this say?" He craned his neck to read the label. "John Coltrane, Giant Steps." "Very good." I grasped the record with both hands and raised it over my head for all to see. "We're not picky, Matsuo. We welcome everyone. Therefore, today it is my honor to initiate you and the home audience back on NHK. If you're still watching, you're part of this too." I broke the record over his head. He yelped and staggered backward and almost tripped over a dead cat. Stone Kincaid caught him and propped him up. "Congratulations," said Steny as he waved his claws at Japan. "You're all extremists now." Shikibu gaped at me, his microcam eyes askew. A couple of kids clapped. "There's someone else here who has not yet joined us." I turned on Tree. "Another spectator." Her smile faded. "You leave her alone," said Janet. "What are you, crazy?" "I'm not going to touch her." I held up empty hands. "No, I just want her to ruin something. That's why you came, isn't it, Tree? To get a taste?" I rifled through the box until I found what I wanted. "How about this?" I thrust it at her. "Oh, yeah," said Steny. "I meant to tell you—" She took the record and scoped it briefly. When she glanced up at me, I almost lost my nerve. "Matsuo Shikibu, meet Tremonisha Joplin." I clasped my hands behind my back so no one could see me tremble. "The great-great-great-granddaughter of the famous American composer Scott Joplin. Yes, Japan, we're all celebrities here in New Canaan. Now, please observe." I read the record for him. "Piano Rags by Scott Joplin, Volume 3. Who knows, this might be the last copy. We can only hope." "So what are you waiting for, Tree? You don't want to be a Joplin anymore? Just wait until your folks get a peek at this. We'll even send Gigi a copy. Go ahead, enjoy." "Smash it!" The kids around us took up the chant. "Smash it!" Shikibu adjusted his lenses. "You think I won't?" Tree pulled out the disc and threw the sleeve off the balcony. "This is a piece of junk, Mr. Boy." She laughed and then shattered the album against the wall. She held on to a shard. "It doesn't mean anything to me." I heard Janet whisper, "What's going on?" "I think they're having an argument." "You want me to be your little dream cush." Tree tucked the piece of broken plastic into the pocket of my baggies. "The stiff from nowhere who knows nobody and does nothing without Mr. Boy. So you try to scare me off. You tell me you're so rich you can afford to hate yourself. Stay home, you say, it's too dangerous. We're all crazy. Well, if you're so sure this is poison, how come you still got your wise guy on your cash cards? Are you going to move out of your mom, leave town, stop getting stunted? You're not giving it up, Mr. Boy, so why should I?" Shikibu turned his camera eyes on me. No one spoke. "You're right," I said. "She's right. I could not save anyone until I saved myself." I felt the wildness lifting me to it. I leapt onto the balcony wall and shouted for everyone to hear. "Shut up and listen, everybody! You're all invited to my place, okay?" There was one last thing to smash. "Stop this, Peter." The greeter no longer thought I was cute. "What are you doing?" She trembled as if the kids spilling into her were an infection. "I thought you'd like to meet my friends," I said. A few had stayed behind with Happy, who had decided to sulk after I hijacked her guests. The rest had followed me home in a caravan so I could warn off the sentry robots. It was already a Hall of Fame bash. "Tremonisha Joplin, this is my mom. Sort of." "Hi." Tree held out her hand uncertainly. The greeter was no longer the human doormat. "Get them out of me." She was too jumpy to be polite. "Right now." Someone turned up a boombox. Skitter music filled the room like a siren. Tree said something I could not hear. When I put a hand to my ear, she leaned close and said, "Don't be so mean, Mr. Boy. I think she's really frightened." I grinned and nodded. "I'll tell Cook to make us some snacks." Bubba and Mike carried boxes filled with the last of the swag and set them on the coffee table. Kids fanned out, running their hands along her wrinkled, blood-hot walls, bouncing on the furniture. Stenny waved at me as he led a bunch upstairs for a tour. A leftover cat had gotten loose and was hissing and scratching underfoot. Some twisted kids had already stripped and were rolling in the floor hair, getting ready to have sex. "Get dressed, you!" The greeter kicked at them as she coiled her umbilical to keep it from being trampled. She retreated to her wall plug. "You're hurting me!" Although her voice rose to a scream, only half a dozen kids heard her. She went limp and sagged to the floor. The whole room seemed to throb as if to some great heartbeat, and the lights went out. It took a while for someone to kill the sound on the boombox. "What's wrong?" voices called out. "Mr. Boy? Lights!" Both door bones swung open, and I saw a bughead silhouetted against the twilight sky, Shikibu in his microcams. "Party's over," Mom said over her speaker system. There was nervous laughter. "Leave before I call the cops. Peter, go to your room right now. I want to speak to you." As the stampede began, I found Tree's hand. "Wait for me." I pulled her close. "I'll only be a minute." "What are you going to do?" She sounded frightened. It felt good to be taken so seriously. "I'm moving out, chucking all this. I'm going to be a working stiff." I chuckled. "Think your dad would give me a job?" "Look out, dumbscut!" Hey, don't push!" Tree dragged me out of the way. "You're crazy." "I know. That's why I have to get out of Mom." "Listen," she said, "you've never been poor. You have no idea. Only a rich kid would think it's easy being a stiff. Just go up, apologize, tell her it won't happen again, then change things later on if you want. Believe me, life will be a lot simpler if you hang on to the money." "I can't. Will you wait?" "You want me to tell you it's okay to be stupid, is that it? Well, I've been poor, Mr. Boy, and still am, and I don't recommend it. So don't expect me to stand around and clap while you throw away something I've always wanted." She spun away from me, and I lost her in the darkness. I wanted to catch up with her, but I knew I had to do Mom now, or I would lose my nerve. As I was fumbling my way upstairs, I heard stragglers coming down. "On your right," I called. Bodies nudged by me. "Mr. Boy, is that you?" I recognized Stenny's voice. "He's gone," I said. 7 flights up, the lights were on. Nanny waited on the landing outside my rooms, her umbilical stretched nearly to its limit. She was the only remote which was physically able to get to my floor, and this was as close as she could come. It had been a while since I had seen her. Mom did not use her much any more, and I rarely visited, even though the nursery was only 1 flight down. But this was the remote who used to pick me up when I cried, and who had changed my diapers, and who taught me how to turn on my room brain. She had skin so pale you could almost see veins, and long black hair piled high on her head. I never thought of her as having a body, because she always wore dark turtlenecks and long woolen skirts and silky pantyhose. Nanny was a smile and warm hands and the smell of fresh pillowcases. Once upon a time I thought her the most beautiful creature in the world. Back then I would have done anything she said. She was not smiling now. "I don't know how you expect me to trust you any more, Peter." Nanny had never been a very good scold. "Those brats were out of control. I can't let you put me in danger this way." If you wanted someone to trust, maybe you shouldn't have had me stunted. You got exactly what you ordered. The never-ending kid. Well, kids don't have to be responsible. What do you mean, what I ordered? It's what you wanted, too. Is it? Did you ever ask? I was only 10 the first time, too young to know better. For a long time I did it to please you. Getting stunted was the only thing I did that seemed important to you. But you never explained. You never sat me down and said, this is the life you'll have, and this is what you'll miss, and this is how you'll feel about it. You want to grow up, is that it? She was trying to threaten me. You want to work and worry and get old and die some day? She had no idea what we were talking about. I can't live this way any more, Nanny. At first she acted stunned, as if I had spoken in Albanian. Then her expression hardened when she realized she had lost her hold on me. She was ugly when she was angry. They put you up to this. Her gaze narrowed in accusation. That little black cush you've been seeing, those realists. I had always managed to hide my anger from Mom, right up until then. How do you know about her? I had never told her about Tree. Peter, they live in a mall. Conrad was right. You've been spying on me. When she did not deny it, I went berserk. You liar! I slammed my fist into her belly. You said you wouldn't watch. She staggered and fell onto her umbilical, crimping it. As she twitched on the floor, I pounced. You promised! I slapped her face. Promised! I hit her again. Her hair had come undone, and her eyes rolled back in their sockets, and her face was slack. She made no effort to protect herself. Mom was retreating from this remote, too, but I was not going to let her get away. Mom! I rolled off Nanny. I'm coming up, Mom, you hear? Get ready. I was crying. It had been a long time since I had cried. Not something Mr. Boy did. I scrambled up to the long landing at the shoulders. At one end another circular stairway wound up into the torch. In the middle 4 steps led into the neck. It was the only door bone I had never seen open. I had no idea how to get through. Mom, I'm here! I pounded. Mom, you hear me? Silence. Let me in, Mom! I smashed myself against the door bone. Pain branched through my shoulder like lightning, but it felt great because Mom shuddered from the impact. I backed up and in a frenzy hurled myself again. Something warm dripped on my cheek. She was bleeding from the hinges. I aimed a vicious kick at the door bone, and it banged open. I went through. For years I had imagined that if only I could get into the head, I could meet my real mother. Touch her. I had always wondered what she looked like. She got reshaped just after I was born. When I was little, I used to think of her as a magic princess glowing with fairy light. Later, I pictured her as one or another of my friends' moms, only better dressed. After I had started getting twanked, I was afraid she might be just a brain floating in nutrient solution, like in some pricey memory bank. All wrong. The interior of the head was dark and absolutely freezing. There was no sound except for the hum of refrigeration units. Mom? My voice echoed in the empty space. I stumbled and caught myself against a smooth wall. Not skin, like everywhere else in Mom. Metal. The tears froze on my face. There's nothing for you here, she said. This is a clean room. You're compromising it. You must leave immediately. Sterile environment, metal walls, the bitter cold that superconductors needed. I did not need to see. No one lived here. It had never occurred to me that there was no Mom to touch. She had downloaded, become an electron ghost, tripping icy logic gates. How long have you been dead? This isn't where you belong, she said. I shivered. How long? Go away, she said. So I did. I had to. I could not stay very long in her secret place, or I would die of the cold. As I reeled down the stairs, Mom herself seemed to shift beneath my feet, and I saw her as if she were a stranger, dead, and I had been living in a tomb. I ran past Nanny. She still sprawled where I had left her. All those years I had loved her. I had been in love with death. Mom had been sucking life from me the way her refrigerator stole the warmth from my body. Now I knew there was no way I could stay, no matter what anyone said. I knew it was not going to be easy leaving, and not just because of the money. For a long time Mom had been my entire world. But I could not let her use me to pretend she was alive, or I would end up like her. I realized now that the door had always stayed locked because Mom had to hide what she had become. If I wanted, I could have destroyed her. Downloaded intelligences have no more rights than cars or wise guys. Mom was legally dead, and I was her only heir. I could have had her shut off, her body raised, but somehow it was enough to go, to walk away from my inheritance. I was scared, and yet with every step I felt lighter, happier, extremely free. I had not expected to find Tree waiting at the door-bone, chatting with Conrad as if nothing had happened. "I just had to see if you were really the biggest fool in the world," she said. "Out!" I pulled her through the door. "Before I change my mind." Conrad started to follow us. "No, not you." I turned and stared back at the heads on his window coat. I had not intended to see him again. I had wanted to be gone before Montross returned him. "Look, I'm giving you back to Mom. She needs you more than I do." If he had argued, I might have given in. The old, unregulated Conrad would have said something, but he just slumped a little and nodded, and I knew that he was dead, too. The thing in front of me was another ghost. He and Mom were two of a kind. "Pretend you're her kid. Maybe she'll like that." I patted his shoulder. "Prekrasnaya ideya," he said. "Spasibo." "You're welcome," I said. Tree and I trotted together down the long driveway. Robot sentries crossed the lawn and turned their spotlights on us. I wanted to tell her she was right. I had probably just done the single most irresponsible thing of my life, and I had high standards. Still, I could not imagine how being poor could be worse than being rich and hating yourself. I had seen enough of what it was like to be dead. It was time to try living. "Are we going someplace, Mr. Boy?" Tree squeezed my hand. "Or are we just wandering around in the dark?" "Mr. Boy is a damn stupid name, don't you think?" I laughed. "Call me Pete." I felt like a kid again.